We've seen just about every kind of end-of-the-world story out there, from zombies in The Walking Dead to the wastelands of Mad Max. The plot usually follows the same formula, a group of survivors trying not to get eaten, by monsters or by each other. But what if the story started almost a century after the apocalypse, with humanity living on a space station? That's exactly the premise of the 100. To find out if Earth is habitable again, the leaders of the Ark come up with a brilliant idea: send 100 juvenile delinquents down to the surface as guinea pigs. Basically, a survival reality show full of hormones and terrible decisions. At first glance, it seems like the perfect recipe for a typical teen drama: love triangles and popularity contests. And for a good while, the 100 was actually one of the best survival series on TV. The problem is, as the seasons went on, things went off the rails in a big way. The show got stuck in repetitive story arcs with a new apocalypse every year, and characters we once loved started making decisions that made absolutely no sense. The plot spiraled into such far-out sci-fi that even the most loyal fans were left scratching their heads, all leading to a finale that split the fan base right down the middle. So today on the channel, The 100, one of the most divisive shows of recent years. The story is set in a distant future. 97 years after a nuclear apocalypse turned Earth into an uninhabitable wasteland. What's left of humanity lives on floating space stations, a kind of city in the sky called the Ark. To find out if Earth is habitable again, the Ark's top brass has a brilliant plan: send 100 juvenile delinquents down to the surface. It's basically X on the beach, but the X is the entire planet. They're given wristbands to monitor their vitals and one mission: get to Mount Weather. Among them is Clark Griffin, a 17-year-old girl and daughter of the Ark's chief medical officer. Upon arriving on Earth, the group discovers a paradise: forests, rivers, everything lush and green. But the joy is short-lived. Clark and 4 others head out to find supplies and discover they're not alone. Jasper, one of the group, is suddenly speared through the chest. Yes, there are hostile survivors on Earth. Meanwhile, the rest of the delinquents, led by a guy named Bellamy, are back at camp throwing a massive party, acting like they're on spring break. Up on the Ark, tensions are high. Chancellor Jaha is shot, and Kane, a heartless councilman who looks like a Disney villain, takes power. Clark's mother, Abby, uses too many medical supplies to save Jaha, and Kane decides to have her executed for it. But at the last second, Jaha wakes up and pardons Abby, a soap opera ending in the middle of space. He finds out that his son, Wells, is on Earth. The regret hits him hard. Meanwhile, Clark's mother, Abby, isn't messing around and recruits Raven, a mechanic, to fix an escape pod so she can get to Earth too. It's maternal instinct in overdrive. Down on Earth, Operation Rescue Jasper is underway. Clark, Wells, Murphy, and Bellamy team up to save their friend, who was taken by the Grounders after the attack. They find the poor guy tied to a tree like some bizarre Christmas ornament and manage to bring him back to camp. Oh, and they also killed a panther along the way. Multitasking is the name of the game. Back at camp, Bellamy decides to play dictator. He creates a new rule: anyone who wants food has to give up their monitoring wristband. It's like trading your smartwatch for a plate of food. Clark and a guy named Finn are smart enough to keep theirs. The problem is, up on the Ark, every wristband that goes offline looks like a death. The people in space start to panic, thinking the kids are dying one by one. To make matters worse, a mysterious figure is watching the camp from a distance. A stalker has entered the chat. We open with a flashback to understand Clark's beef. Her father, an engineer, discovered a critical flaw in the Ark's life support system. He threatened to go public, so Chancellor Jaha had him floated, the fancy way of saying he was executed and ejected into space. In the present, Jasper's wound is infected, so Clark, Finn, and Wells head out to find some algae with antibiotic properties. Meanwhile, a deadly acidic fog rolls in out of nowhere, forcing everyone to seek shelter. It's an apocalypse within the apocalypse. Trapped, Clark, Finn, and Wells start airing their dirty laundry. Clark accuses Wells of being the snitch who ratted out her father to Jaha. In another shelter, Bellamy comforts Charlotte, a 13-year-old girl whose parents were also executed by Jaha. The fog claims a victim, and Clark has to euthanize the poor guy to end his suffering. This show isn't pulling any punches. The good news is she manages to save Jasper. The terrible news is she discovers it was her own mother who turned in her father, knowing he'd be killed. The family drama just hit a whole new level. Clark and Wells make peace, but it doesn't last long. Charlotte misunderstands Bellamy's advice about facing her demons, and just like that, kills Wells. Monty tries to use the wristbands to send a "Hey, we're alive, Rizza" message to the Ark, but technology doesn't seem to be on his side. Meanwhile, Octavia and Jasper find Murphy's knife near the wall, along with a macabre bonus: 2 of Wells's fingers. fingers. The jig is up for Murphy. Clark doesn't waste any time and accuses him in front of everyone, turning the camp into a kangaroo court that sentences him to be hanged. The mob is just about to string Murphy up when little Charlotte, consumed by guilt, screams that she did it.
Murphy didn't kill Wells! I did!
The chaos halts, and Murphy is saved by the bell, or rather, by a child's confession. Charlotte flees with Clark and Finn to an old bunker, but Murphy isn't the forgiving type and goes after her, seeking revenge. Overwhelmed with guilt, the girl tries to turn herself in, but Bellamy stops her. The chase ends at a dead end, literally, a cliff, where Charlotte decides to jump to her death. With the situation resolved in the most tragic way possible, Bellamy banishes Murphy from the camp, and this tense event ends up uniting Clark and Bellamy as the new leadership duo. To make communication even worse, Monty manages to fry all the wristbands. End of the line. Frustrated with everything, Finn heads back to the bunker. Clark follows, and some end-of-the-world sparks fly between them. Up on the Ark, Abby and Raven risk everything to get a spare part, but Kane finds out and has Abby arrested. Out of options, Raven goes full action hero, steals a pod, and launches herself toward Earth alone. Raven's pod has landed, but she's unconscious. The first to arrive is Bellamy, who casually pockets her radio. After all, he's the one who shot Jaha and isn't exactly keen on facing the music. Shortly after, Clark and Finn show up to help, and that's when the bombshell drops. Raven is Finn's girlfriend. The look on Clark's face is priceless. They tell Bellamy about the Ark's plan to cull 300 people to save oxygen, which makes him change his tune real fast. He even helps look for the radio, but it's too late. It's smashed to pieces. Plan B? Launch signal flares to let the Ark know Earth is survivable, and they don't have to kill anyone. Meanwhile, on the Ark, the culling is underway, and Section 17 is about to be sealed. Desperate, Abby drops a truth bomb on everyone, revealing her husband's discovery about Earth. This inspires some residents to volunteer for the sacrifice. After the culling, Abby, now a prisoner, and Jaha see a light at the end of the tunnel. The teens' flares appear in their cell window. Hope is reignited, but since good things never last, down on Earth, Octavia is captured by a grounder. We flash back in time to understand the drama between siblings Bellamy and Octavia. We see her birth, which was illegal due to the Ark's one-child policy. Because of this, the poor girl lived her life hidden under the floorboards. At 16, Bellamy sneaks her into a masquerade ball, but she's discovered, and their mother is floated, the fancy term for executed. A year later, Commander Shumway makes Bellamy an offer: assassinate Jaha in exchange for a spot on the dropship for him and his sister. That explains a lot, doesn't it?
What I can do is get you a seat on that dropship.
What do I have to do?
Kill the Chancellor.
Back in the present, Bellamy forms a search party to find Octavia. The expedition barely begins before they walk into a grounder ambush, which is only stopped by the sound of a mysterious horn. Meanwhile, Clark and Raven head to the bunker to find a transmitter, and it's there that Raven finds out about Finn and Clark's thing. The tension is thick. Bellamy, Finn, and Jasper finally rescue Octavia and discover that the grounder who captured her was actually protecting her. He was the one who blew the horn to stop the attack, but when Finn approaches to understand the situation, the guy just stabs him. Jasper reacts and knocks the grounder out. With a storm approaching, Clark warns that she can only save Finn with her mother's help, which means once again, they need to fix that radio. Things are looking grim on Earth. A hurricane is rolling in, and to make matters worse, Finn is on the brink of death from a poison stab wound. Bellamy captures the grounder who attacked Finn and starts torturing him for the antidote, but the guy is a tough nut to crack and won't talk. Meanwhile, Raven, our tech genius, pulls off the impossible. She makes a video call to the Ark. Abby becomes a sort of remote doctor, guiding Clark as she treats Finn. Seeing that the torture isn't working, Octavia has a do-or-die idea. She poisons herself with the same blade right in front of the grounder. The emotional blackmail works, and he finally reveals the secret to the antidote. Up on the Ark, Abby gets a get-out-of-jail-free card with a little push from Kane, but as punishment, she's kicked off the council. And who takes her place? Former Chancellor Diana Sidney, a woman who walks in looking like she can't be trusted. The people of the Ark find out Earth is habitable and launch Project Exodus to bring everyone down. There's just one tiny problem. The ships only have room for 25% of the population. It's like trying to cram the entire party into a smart car. The tension from the previous previous culling comes rushing back, and no one trusts the council anymore. To top it all off, Clark finally confronts her mother about her father's death, and Abby swears she only wanted Jaha to scare him, not execute him. They finally got a signal on Earth. The video link to the Ark is re-established, and they tell the 100 about a nearby underground depot that could serve as a winter shelter. Bellamy and Clark go to investigate and find a treasure trove, a stockpile of weapons and supplies like a loot chest in a video game. But good things never last, and a guy named Dax, who's being blackmailed by Commander Shumway, follows them with orders to take Bellamy out.
What do you want me to do?
Kill Bellamy, Blake.
Meanwhile, the entire camp is on a collective bad trip after eating some hallucinogenic nuts. Octavia, ever the opportunist, uses the confusion and mass hallucinations to free the grounder, who we learn is named Lincoln. Bellamy himself starts tripping, feeling immense guilt over the culling, and almost bites the dust at Dax's hands. But with a little help from Clark, he manages to turn the tables and dispatch the would-be assassin. Clark, who's no fool, uses the situation to negotiate a pardon for Bellamy with Jaha. Jaha agrees, but on one condition. He wants to know who hired Bellamy to shoot him. The name leads to Shumway's arrest. But then comes the plot twist. Diana Sidney visits the guy in his cell and reveals she was the mastermind behind it all. And to tie up the loose end, she has Shumway killed and makes it look like a suicide. This villain means business. It's Unity Day, the holiday celebrating the joining of the space stations. While the 100 try to celebrate on Earth, the party on the Ark is cut short by a bomb that explodes right in the middle of the ceremony, severing the video feed. Diana, who we already knew was no saint, takes advantage of the chaos to lead a mutiny and steal the first dropship. But haste makes waste. The launch goes wrong, causing a total blackout on the Ark and disabling all the other ships. Basically, she locked the door and threw away the key. Down below, Finn tries to be the group's diplomat and with Lincoln's help, sets up a peace summit with the grounder leader. Clark goes as the representative and meets Anya. The conversation is tense from the start, with Anya revealing that the 100 signal flares, however accidentally, burned down an entire village, which is why the grounders want war. Jasper, who is on watch with Bellamy, panics, thinking he sees shooters in the trees, and starts firing wildly. The peace talk turns into a war zone in seconds. To cap off the night with more disaster, Clark and Bellamy watch as Diana's ship falls from the sky. With no parachute, it plummets and crashes into the ground with the force of an action movie explosion. Looks like the Exodus party got cancelled. The 100 arrive at the crashed ship and find no survivors. To make matters worse, Murphy reappears at camp, all beaten up. He claims he was captured and tortured by the grounders for information. But he didn't come back alone. Soon after, a nasty hemorrhagic fever starts to spread, and people start dropping like flies. Clark, who's no dummy, figures it out instantly. The grounders use Murphy as a biological weapon, a literal Trojan horse carrying germs.
Raven, get away from us.
What?
They're the ones who brought Murphy in.
The disease is an equal opportunity killer. Bellamy, Raven, and Clark herself catch the virus. Luckily, Octavia and Finn seem to be immune. Lincoln, Octavia's beau, shows up and explains the grounders' plan. This is their tactic to soften the battlefield before the main attack. He also mentions he's getting out of there and drops a bombshell. They need to worry about the Mountain Men, add another enemy to the list. Raven, even while sick, builds a bomb to delay the attack but passes out before she can detonate it. Finn rushes to save Raven, while Jasper, with Monty's help, manages to blow the bridge just in the nick of time, saving everyone's skin. In the midst of the chaos, Murphy, who hasn't forgotten who tried to hang him, finds Connor and suffocates him, getting his revenge. And speaking of drama, Raven realizes Finn is head over heels for Clark and ends their relationship. At least 3 of the 100 die from the virus, but the rest begin a slow recovery. Monty, our tech genius, discovers a strange signal on the Exodus's black box. It seems to be the reason the ship crashed, but before they can investigate, a mysterious fire destroys almost all of the camp's food. With starvation looming, they split into hunting parties. Clark, Finn, and a guy named Miles head out together, but their luck runs out fast. Clark and Finn are captured by grounders. Their leader, Anya, orders Clark to save Triss, a little girl who was injured in the bridge explosion. Clark, still just a medical student, tries everything, but the girl doesn't make it. As payback, the grounders take Finn to be executed. Desperate, Clark manages to kill a guard and escapes. Meanwhile, Bellamy, Raven, Octavia, and Monty search for the missing group and find Miles wounded in the forest. Out of nowhere, Monty hears a strange signal on his radio and simply vanishes into thin air, as if he's been abducted. Far away on the Ark, Kane wakes up amidst chaos and destruction. He finds an engineer, Wick, and discovers discovers that Jaha is still alive, trying to reactivate the systems. More than half of the Ark's population is likely dead, but they find a group of survivors, including Clark's mom, Abby. To reach them, Kane has to go full-action hero and cross a superheated tunnel. The family is almost reunited. But at what cost? Clark's freedom lasted about as long as a cheap phone's battery. She's recaptured by Anya, but a new grounder, Tristan, soon shows up and takes command.
Who are you?
I'm the man sent to slaughter your people.
Just when all seems lost, Lincoln appears out of nowhere, saves Clark, and leads her to Finn, who, surprise, is very much alive. Lincoln guides them through a network of tunnels, but the place is inhabited by Reapers, cannibalistic humanoids, who even the Grounders fear, so that Clark and Finn can escape and warn the others. Lincoln seemingly sacrifices himself, facing the monsters alone. Back at the dropship, Murphy has decided it's his time to shine. He takes Jasper hostage, and Bellamy, playing the hero, offers to take his place. As Raven desperately tries to open the dropship door to save Bellamy, Murphy hears a noise, fires blindly at the floor, and ends up shooting Raven. To complete the horror show, he prepares to hang Bellamy. At the last second, Raven gets the door open and saves Bellamy, who was already dangling. Murphy uses the chaos, some gunpowder to blow a hole in the ship's wall, and escapes with a walkie-talkie. When Clark finally returns, she convinces everyone to abandon the camp and head for the ocean. Up in space, with the landing ships destroyed, Jaha has a crazy, desperate idea. If they can't land safely, he's going to make the entire Ark crash land on Earth. The 100 barely have time to breathe before they're ambushed by Grounders, forcing everyone to retreat back to the dropship camp. Meanwhile, in space, the rest of the Ark's survivors prepare to descend to Earth, but a technical glitch arises, and Jaha has to make the ultimate sacrifice, like Tony Stark in Endgame, but without the suit. He stays behind to ensure the others can launch, knowing he'll run out of air in a few weeks. What a downer. At least the mecha station, carrying Abby and Kane, manages to land safely. Back at the dropship battle, Tristan, one of the Grounder warlords, leads the assault. The 100 prepare their defense, but things look dire. In the chaos, Octavia is injured, and Lincoln gets her out of there. The rest of the group barricades themselves inside the ship, and in the confusion, Anya, a Grounder leader, jumps inside and is captured. Then comes the crazy plan. Jasper manages to ignite the dropship's rockets. The blast turns into a massive barbecue, incinerating some 300 Grounders at once. The problem? Finn and Bellamy, who were outside, were seemingly vaporized along with the enemy. When the survivors emerge from the ship, thinking they've won, a surprise awaits. Gas grenades land at their feet and everyone passes out. Clark wakes up in a sterile, all-white room. Through a window, she sees Monty in an identical room and a sinister sign reads, Mount Weather Quarantine Ward. Clark wakes up and Monty is gone, vanished. She pulls a MacGyver, breaks out of her cell, and discovers she's not in a hospital, but in a massive underground bunker. Inside, she finds a society of people who have lived their entire lives underground, like the vault dwellers from Fallout. They can't go outside because the radiation would kill them. Their leader seems super nice and invites Clark and the other 47 captured from the 100 to stay, but Clark, who has a built-in lie detector, doesn't trust this story one bit. She tries to escape, but Jasper, who seems to have drunk the bunker Kool-Aid, stops her. Now her plan is to plot a breakout on the sly. Meanwhile, outside, the vengeful Tristan is hunting the rest of the 100 who evaded capture. But then the Ark's Avengers arrive. Abby, Kane, and the other adults save the kids and finally put an end to Tristan. At the destroyed dropship, Raven, badly injured, still has the strength to take out a Grounder. And who shows up to patch her up? Murphy. He uses the opportunity for a therapy session, opening up about his tragic past. Shortly after, the Ark crew finds them and brings everyone to the newly established Camp Jaha. Far away, Lincoln races to save Octavia, who has been poisoned. With no antidote, his only option is to take her to his village, even though he knows he'll be a dead man if he's caught. Up above, all alone on the Ark, Jaha starts to lose his mind from oxygen deprivation. He finds an abandoned baby and decides he will bring it to Earth. At Mount Weather, Clark still isn't buying the 5-star hotel story and confronts Dante, the man in charge. She knows something is very wrong. Meanwhile, Octavia is healed by Nico, a friend of Lincoln's, but instead of saying thanks, she takes him hostage. The plan is to trade him for Lincoln's freedom. This girl has learned to be tough. At Camp Jaha, Abby performs surgery on Raven to remove a bullet from her spine without anesthesia. It's agonizing just to think about. In space, Jaha discovers the baby was just a hallucination of his son. The ghost convinces him not to give up, so Jaha does the most logical thing possible. He gets inside a nuclear missile and launches himself toward Earth, coming down like a meteor. During the prisoner exchange, everything goes wrong. The Reapers attack and capture Lincoln. To top it all off, Clark discovers Mount Weather's dark secret. Anya, the Grounder leader, is being held there along with others, serving as a living blood bag to treat the bunker's residents. They're basically radiation vampires. Clark and Anya give the guards at Mount Weather the slip and decide to escape through the Reaper tunnels. Meanwhile, at Camp Jaha, Abby gets in trouble for giving Finn a gun and ends up grounded. Seeing that the adults aren't going to do anything, Bellamy puts together a team and sets off to find their missing friends, full-on rescue squad style. Octavia, who's basically becoming an honorary grounder, joins Indra's hunting party to track the Reapers and find Lincoln, but her man isn't in the group they intercept. Where the heck is Lincoln? Back in Mount Weather, Jasper and Monty are chewing their nails with worry over Clark's disappearance. To restore order, Kane decides to go after Bellamy's group and, in a masterstroke, names Abby the new chancellor. Talk about a promotion. Back in the tunnels, Clark and Anya nearly become Reaper Chow but manage to escape. But just when you think they're about to become best friends, Anya pulls a fast one and takes Clark hostage. So much for trust. And for the grand finale, we find out where Lincoln has been all this time, in Mount Weather, and the final twist is a jaw-dropper. The Reapers actually work for the Mountain Men, delivering prisoners in exchange for a gruesome feast made of dead grounders. That's right, they're the DoorDash of the apocalypse. Meanwhile, in another part of the world, Chancellor Jaha is found in the middle of a desert by a young boy named Zoran. It's like a scene from a biblical movie. The boy's family left everything behind in search of a mythical place called the City of Light. Is this the new El Dorado? Back in the forest, Bellamy's squad finds a survivor from the Ark named Mel, but the joy is short-lived as Sterling dies trying to rescue her. Clark and Anya continue their desperate escape from the Mountain Men in a forced partnership that's more cat and mouse than anything else. Back at camp, Raven is back in action thanks to Wick, who built her an awesome leg brace. There's already a Grey's Anatomy vibe sparking between them. And speaking of reunions, Octavia finally finds Bellamy and the rest of the group. At least some good news. Jaha's streak of bad luck, however, isn't over. Zoran's father, the same man who saved him, trades him for a horse. Yes, you read that right. The former chancellor of humankind was traded for an equine. What a low point. To make matters worse, when Clark and Anya finally reach Camp Jaha, the reception is anything but warm. The Ark guards mistake them for enemies, shoot and kill Anya on the spot, and then knock Clark out cold. Welcome back, I guess. Clark wakes up in Camp Jaha's infirmary, and after a quick hide from her mom, finally reunites with Bellamy, Octavia, and Raven. The squad reunion is brief because the priority now is finding Finn and Murphy, who are out there causing trouble. Meanwhile, Kane tries to play diplomat and broker a peace treaty with the Grounders, but the plan goes horribly wrong and he ends up a prisoner. And guess who his cellmate is? Jaha himself, the dynamic duo no one asked for. Things get even darker in Mount Weather. We discover Lincoln is being used as a test subject for experiments with a red drug that turns Grounders into Reapers. So that's how they're made. It's a straight-up sci-fi horror show. In a rare, heroic moment, Jasper saves Maya's life from radiation exposure with a blood transfusion. The kid is becoming a hero. Inspired by this success, Dr. Singh and Cage, President Wallace's son, want to use the other 47 teens as lab rats, but his dad Wallace puts his foot down and forbids the tests. Elsewhere, Finn has completely lost it. In his blind search for Clark, he takes an entire Grounder village hostage. Clark, Bellamy, and Octavia arrive just in time to witness the horror show. Finn, completely unhinged, guns down 18 unarmed people. The good guy has officially gone to the dark side. 2 days after the massacre, Raven, our tech genius, discovers that the people in Mount Weather are acting like that annoying neighbor who keeps stealing your Wi-Fi. They were jamming communications, which caused the Exodus ship to crash. To investigate, Bellamy and Octavia leave camp and run into a nasty surprise. Lincoln has been turned into a Reaper. Think of a rabid, super strong zombie, and you've got it. Meanwhile, Clark is still giving Finn the silent treatment. Not even a hello passes between them. Back in hacker mode, Raven manages to listen in on Mount Weather's radios and discovers that the bizarre acid fog is actually one of their weapons. Inside the mountain, President Wallace wants Jasper to convince the others to donate blood, but obviously, no one is eager to become a walking blood bag. Maya then lets Jasper in on the place's dark secret. The Mountain Men are keeping Grounders locked in cages. It's a bizarre human zoo.
Grounders. Wait a second.
Why are you showing us this?
Because I'm afraid.
In the Grounder prison, Jaha and Kane receive the most sinister offer of all. One must kill the other for the right to speak with the commander. Highlander style, there can be only one. Kane, not messing around, tries to kill himself to avoid fighting Jaha, but then comes the plot twist. A Grounder who was watching the whole thing reveals herself. It's Lexa, the commander herself. She says she believes they truly want peace and sends Jaha back with a blunt message. Leave in 2 days or everyone dies. With the Grounder's deadline looming, the conflict is now internal. Abby and Jaha can't agree on a plan. Jaha wants to pack everyone up and head for a so-called City of Light, which sounds more like a scam from a wellness guru. Abby, however, wants to stay and rescue the 47 who were kidnapped. Meanwhile, Clark, Octavia, and Bellamy manage to capture Lincoln in his Reaper state and discover he was drugged and used as a test subject. Lincoln's heart even stops, but Clark, in true Grey's Anatomy fashion, manages to revive him. In doing so, she realizes there's a cure for the Reapers, a piece of information that could be the perfect bargaining chip with the Grounders, and it works. After Abby cures Lincoln, Lexa agrees to a truce, but it comes at a steep price. She wants Finn's head for the massacre he committed. Peace will only come if he pays with his life. Back in Mount Weather, Jasper, Monty, Miller, and Harper discover something incredible. There are other survivors from the Ark on Earth. Hope skyrockets, but their good fortune is short-lived. Dr. Singh, the mountain's mad scientist, figures out the perfect way for her people to live on the surface. They need the bone marrow of the 47. Yes, they literally want to strip the teams for parts. President Wallace forbids this madness, but his son Cage goes rogue and starts the process behind his father's back, using Harper as the first test subject. Clark returns to camp with the worst news imaginable. The only way the Grounders will accept peace is if they hand over Finn. The news hits like a bombshell, and the camp is divided. No one knows what to do. To complicate matters, a flashback reveals that Finn was only imprisoned on the Ark because he took the blame for an illegal spacewalk Raven took. He played the bad boy to save the girl he loved. At camp, Abby and a newly returned Kane try to play diplomat, suggesting they negotiate a fair trial for Finn. But all their plans fall apart when Finn himself, tired of it all, decides to turn himself in. He marches straight to the Grounders. In a desperate attempt to save his life, Clark goes to meet Lexa and plead for clemency, but the commander is unyielding, basically saying, a deal's a deal, no takebacks. With no other option, Clark asks to say goodbye. She approaches Finn, kisses him, tells him she loves him, and, in the middle of the kiss, stabs him. It was a brutal mercy killing.
I love you too.
Ending his life quickly to spare him the horrific torture the Grounders had planned. A heavy and tragic end for Clark's first love on Earth. The vibe is heavy. Clark and a group from the Ark bring Finn's body to a Grounder camp to finalize the peace treaty. But Clark is not okay. She keeps seeing visions of Finn everywhere, like she's in a psychological horror film. Meanwhile, Bellamy, always in action hero mode, tries to convince Clark to let him infiltrate Mount Weather as a spy, but she gives him a hard no. Upon arriving at the village, Finn's body is burned alongside the victims of his massacre in a ceremony that's all kinds of tense. Kane, trying to be the diplomat, gifts Lexa a bottle of liquor. The problem? The drink appears to be poisoned, and of course the Sky People get the blame. The Grounders immediately accuse Raven and prepare to execute her without a second thought, but Clark and Bellamy, playing the Sherlock and Watson of the apocalypse, investigate and discover the real culprit is Gustus, Lexa's right-hand man. He set the whole thing up to sabotage the Alliance. After all the drama, Clark finally changes her mind and realizes Bellamy's plan wasn't so bad after all. She gives him the green light and sends him and Lincoln on the mission to infiltrate Mount Weather. Clark and Lexa are walking through the forest when, out of nowhere, they're attacked by a giant mutant gorilla. Think a radioactive King Kong that escaped from a lab. They manage to escape the creature but end up trapped in its cage, and Lexa gets injured in the process. Trapped, Clark has a eureka moment and hatches a plan. Free the Grounders imprisoned inside Mount Weather so they can become an inside army. It's a bold plan, worthy of a heist movie. Meanwhile, Bellamy and Lincoln are on their way to the Reaper tunnels to begin the infiltration. But Lincoln has a nasty relapse into his drug addiction, leaving Bellamy alone and in a seriously tight spot. Elsewhere, Jaha goes into full-on spiritual guru mode and convinces Murphy that the Sky People have nothing to offer them. The best option, he argues, is to embark on a journey to find the mystical City of Light. Jaha then hits the road with a dozen followers, and Murphy, with not much else to do, tags along. Back at camp, Octavia's combat skills are so impressive that Indra, the Grounder leader, invites her to be her second in command.
Do you know what a warrior's second is?
An apprentice.
I can make you a great warrior, Octavia of the Sky People.
But Kane, ever the realist, gives Octavia a reality check. When the war is over, the alliance between their people will likely go down the drain. Bellamy's infiltration mission has gone completely sideways. He's now trapped in a cage in Mount Weather, along with several grounders, basically serving as a walking blood bag. Back at Camp Jaha, Jasper notices that Monty and Harper are missing and suspicious, confronts President Wallace directly. Meanwhile, Cage, the president's son and the story's true villain, sends snipers to take out Clark and Lexa. The plan fails, and the heroes even manage to capture one of the shooters for interrogation. Inside Mount Weather, Maya discovers they're draining Bellamy's blood and, with the help of a grounder prisoner named Echo, manages to save him. He finally makes contact with Clark. Shortly after, President Wallace and Jasper catch Dr. Singh conducting illegal experiments on Monty and Harper, uncovering the true horror of what's happening. Realizing his father knows everything, Cage stages a coup, takes over the presidency, and orders the 47 surviving teenagers to be locked up. Clark, realizing she needs to create a diversion to help Bellamy, sends the captured sniper back to Mount Weather with a clear message. "We're coming with an army." This is Clark in full-on Avenger mode. We open with a maskless Cage rescuing a guy named Emerson on the surface. This proves one thing: the crazy bone marrow experiment worked. Meanwhile, in the dorm, Jasper tells everyone that Bellamy is on the inside, working as a spy. Far away, Jaha, Murphy, and their crew meet a mysterious woman, a scavenger named Amori. She offers to guide them to the City of Light across a desert known as the Dead Zone, but it's pretty clear this girl is shady and hiding something. Back in Mount Weather, Bellamy decides to go full Rambo to help his friends. With unexpected help from President Wallace himself, he basically gives several mountain men, including Dr. Singh, a radiation barbecue. The scene is brutal but effective, and the 47 finally manage to escape.
I hope you know that you're incredibly special to us.
When Bellamy gets on the radio, Clark and Raven overhear Cage's plan to bomb the peace conference in Tondisi. Clark rushes to the village and warns Lexa, who shoots down the idea of a full evacuation, as it would expose Bellamy. The solution? The two of them escape alone, in secret. But just as she's about to leave, Clark spots her mother, Abby, arriving in the village. Desperate, she runs back to save her just as the missile hits. Clark and Abby survive the blast in Tondisi, but the family drama kicks off immediately. Abby is livid when she learns Clark knew about the missile and left everyone to die. The mother stays behind to help the survivors, while Clark and Lexa set off on a revenge mission to hunt down the spotter who called in the strike. In the midst of the chaos, Lincoln saves Indra's life, and Octavia takes charge of the seconds, coordinating everyone to dig out survivors. It's a scene of pure unity amid the devastation. Elsewhere, Abby finds Kane trapped under the rubble, and the two have an existential crisis, questioning if they even deserve to survive after everything. Meanwhile, Clark, with Lincoln's help, finds and kills the spotter. That's when she has a shocking realization. The man wasn't wearing a hazmat suit. The penny drops instantly. This means the mountain men no longer need the grounders, because they've already started harvesting bone marrow from her friends. Speaking of whom, inside Mount Weather, Jasper and the others refuse to surrender and start fighting back, finding refuge with a group of dissidents who disagree with Cage's madness. Things start off tense, with Lexa wanting to off Octavia just to make sure the secret about the missile doesn't get out, but Clark steps in and stops her. That's when Lexa drops a bombshell. She has feelings for Clark. The mood gets heavy. Meanwhile, Bellamy, Raven, and Wick are trying to disable the acid fog. Bellamy discovers it's all a trap, but his radio breaks, leaving him with no way to warn the approaching army. Back to the main drama, Lexa decides to trust Clark and spares Octavia. Clark drops a killer line saying that life is about more than just surviving. Seizing the moment, Lexa kisses Clark, but a traumatized Clark says she's not ready for a relationship. Shortly after, receiving Raven's false, all-clear signal, Clark and Lexa lead the army straight toward Mount Weather. Luckily, Bellamy saves the day and manages to destroy the acid fog system for real, just as it's about to be used against the army. Oh, and Jaha's crazy expedition? They continue their search for the City of Light, lose a few people crossing a minefield, and arrive at a lake where a mysterious boat appears out of nowhere. It just keeps getting weirder. Bellamy is in full Rambo mode, freeing the grounders who were locked in Mount Weather's cages. But Cage doesn't take it lying down and launches an attack to recapture the 47. The fight is intense, and for a moment, Bellamy Bellamy, Jasper, and Maya manage to free everyone again and lead them to the harvest chamber. But their victory is short-lived as soldiers storm the room and take the 47 once more. Desperate, Cage goes crying to his father, Dante, begging for a magic solution to stop the coming attack. Meanwhile, in the tech wing, Raven and Wick are having a field day, destroying the mountain's generators. With that, the lock on Mount Weather's main door is toast. When they finally open the door, ready for the invasion, Lexa simply orders her army to stand down. It's betrayal time. It turns out she made a deal with Emerson. The Grounders would be freed if her army backed off, leaving the Sky People to die. And the mastermind behind this power move? Dante himself. With the Grounders retreating, most of the Sky People accept defeat and leave too. In the end, only Clark remains, planted at the mountain's door like a statue of stubbornness, and Octavia, hiding in the tunnels, refusing to accept that the game is over. Clark joins Octavia in the tunnels, and Bellamy lets them into Mount Weather for a last-ditch secret mission. The plan is simple: kidnap Dante and use him as a bargaining chip against Cage. But Cage is in full-on heartless villain mode and doesn't even care. To prove his point, he begins the bone marrow extraction procedure on Abby, Clark's mother. With her mother's life on the line, Clark sees no other way out and bang, she shoots Dante. But even that doesn't stop Cage, who proceeds with his plan. Out of options, Clark and Bellamy make the series' heaviest decision. They have Marty hack the ventilation system and irradiate the entire mountain. They essentially hit the delete button on the entire population of Mount Weather, including Maya. Cage manages to escape, but runs right into Lincoln, who injects him with the Reaper drug and finishes him off. Instant karma. The only survivor is Emerson, who also escaped. Everyone returns to camp, but Clark can't handle the guilt. Feeling like the commander of death herself, she just bails. Meanwhile, Jaha and Murphy arrive on a mysterious island. Murphy finds a lighthouse with a super creepy video of a guy talking about launch codes before taking his own life. Jaha, on the other hand, finds a high-tech mansion and meets an AI named Ollie, who appears as a hologram of a woman in a red dress. And to top it all off, Ollie thanks him for his gift, the nuclear warhead he used to get to Earth. Whoops. 3 months have passed. Clark is now living solo in the woods, hunting and surviving. At a trading post, she has a one-night stand with the owner, Nyla, but the peace is short-lived. A bounty hunter snags her on her way out. Meanwhile, Camp Jaha has been rebranded as Arcadia, a much fancier name. Lincoln is stuck there, as Lexa has a kill order on him, and he's trying to fit in with the Sky People, which Octavia is not a fan of. Bellamy and his crew go out on patrol and run into scouts from the Ice Nation, a new and unfriendly Grounder clan. Jasper gets injured in the skirmish. The rest of the group finds Kane and Indra, who dropped the bomb. There's a bounty on Clark's head. Among the Grounders, she is now known as One Heda, the commander of death, because of the massacre at Mount Weather. They set out to find her in a solar-powered rover, but fall into a trap. Far away, Murphy is finally freed from his bunker and reunites with Jaha and the AI Ollie at the mansion. He refuses to be part of Jaha's crazy mission, but when he sees Amori as part of the boat crew, he changes his mind instantly and decides to sail away from the island with them. After all, a love interest is more important than the apocalypse, right? The rover's attackers aren't new enemies, but the people from Farm Station, other survivors from the Ark who crashed elsewhere. They're led by a man named Pike. Life hasn't been easy for them. They had to fight the Ice Nation, and now only 63 remain. Pike and his group accept Kane's offer and head to Arcadia. Meanwhile, the search for Clark continues. But it all goes wrong. Bellamy is injured by the bounty hunter who captured her, and the group is forced to return to base with their tails between their legs. And speaking of the bounty hunter, we learn he's not just anyone. He's Prince Roan of the Ice Nation, and he delivers Clark right to Lexa in Polis. What a reunion.
Hello, Clark.
On the other side of the story, Jaha continues his mission for the AI, Ollie, but Murphy and Amori hatch a plan to steal the AI's hardware, which is basically a nuclear-powered backpack. During the chaos, they end up killing a man named Gideon. Desperate, Murphy throws the backpack into the water and flees by boat with Amori. Jaha is left behind with Otan, who suddenly seems to have been brainwashed. As they try to retrieve the equipment, Ollie drops a bombshell. In the City of Light, no one can die. To prove it, she shows them Gideon, alive and well without a scratch. revenge inside this virtual reality. Basically, death is now just a bug in the system. Lexa reveals her grand plan to Clark. She wants the Sky People to officially join her coalition of clans, like an invitation to the Cool Kids Club. Meanwhile, Bellamy, his girlfriend Gina, Octavia, and Raven arrive at Mount Weather with supplies. There, they reunite with Echo, the grounder Bellamy saved from the cages. She arrives with some hot gossip. The Ice Nation plans to attack the summit in Polis. Without a second thought, Bellamy, Pike, and Octavia race there to play hero. But when they arrive, they discover there's no threat. The warning was fake news, a trap to get them out of Mount Weather. And the trap works. An assassin infiltrates the mountain, kills Gina, and activates the self-destruct sequence. Raven and Sinclair manage to kill the guy, but it's too late to disarm the bomb. Mount Weather explodes, taking 36 members of Farm Station with it. Only Raven and Sinclair, who were inside, survive. In the end, comes the soap opera-worthy twist. Echo was working for Queen Naya of the Ice Nation the whole time. And who helped orchestrate it all? Emerson, the last survivor of Mount Weather, who was desperate for revenge. The guy held a grudge the size of a mountain, literally. In Polis, the mood is pure UFC. To decide who gets the throne, Queen Naya chooses her own son, Roan, to fight Lexa to the death. It's a cold move, even for the Ice Nation. Meanwhile, in Arcadia, Bellamy is shattered with guilt over Gina's death and asked to be relieved from the guard. Pike, the master manipulator, preys on his vulnerability and starts planting fear in everyone's mind about the grounder army Lexa sent to protect them. He convinces Bellamy to help him steal weapons to slaughter the army. The plan is only stopped at the last second by Lincoln, Abby, and Kane. This act makes Pike's popularity skyrocket, and he announces his candidacy for Chancellor. Back in the arena, Lexa mops the floor with Roan, but in a masterful Game of Thrones-worthy move, she spares his life and kills Queen Naya instead. With the queen dead, she declares Roan the new king of the Ice Nation. Checkmate.
Long live the king!
The bad news reaches Arcadia. Pike wins the election. His first act as Chancellor to free himself, his supporters, and Bellamy from the brig. The group then marches out of the camp, armed to the teeth to finish what they started. Clark, Lexa, and the Grounders arrive at the camp to find a horror movie scene. The army stationed there has been completely wiped out. The culprits, Pike and his merry band, who decided the peace treaty was merely a suggestion. Amid the bodies, they find Indra, wounded but alive. She tells them Bellamy purposely spared her life just to send Lexa a message. The Sky Crew are done with the alliance. The coalition is over. Lexa, showing the patience of a monk, allows Clark to return to Arcadia to try and talk some sense into Bellamy. But talking to him is like talking to a brick wall. Clark fails miserably. The only thing she accomplishes is convincing Lexa not to retaliate with more violence, hoping to break the eye for an eye cycle. Meanwhile, in another storyline, Murphy and Amori are playing a pair of thieves, setting traps to rob passersby. But the plan goes wrong, and Murphy gets caught. One of the Grounders notices the pill Jaha gave him and gets agitated, demanding to know where he got the suspicious candy. Speaking of Jaha, he and his virtual buddy Ollie are in Arcadia acting like dealers of synthetic happiness, handing out pills for the City of Light. Raven, who lives in constant, unbearable pain, decides to take a chance. She takes the pill, the pain magically vanishes, and as a bonus, she starts seeing Ollie for the first time. King Roan decides to spice things up in Polis and sends Lexa a little gift. Emerson, the last survivor of the Mountain Men, the same one who caused so much terror seasons ago. Now, Clark must decide his fate. Instead of playing the executioner and calling for his head, she chooses exile, basically a get out of here and never come back sentence. Meanwhile, Octavia and Kane discover Pike's new evil plan, to attack a peaceful Grounder village just to use their fertile land to plant corn. Priorities, right? Octavia doesn't think twice, hops on her horse, and rides to warn the village. The Grounders, who are no fools, prepare a deadly trap for the invaders. Things were about to get ugly, but Octavia manages to warn Bellamy just in time, saving the Arcadians by the skin of their teeth. Back at the base, Abby realizes Jaha is so high on his City of Light that he no longer even remembers his own son. With her angry mom mode activated, she confiscates his chips. At the same time, Ollie recruits Raven, her new personal IT genius, to help her find version 2.0. They find nothing on the Ark, which leads to a new theory. The Ollie 2.0 chip dropship might be on the legendary 13th station, Polaris, which supposedly exploded before joining the Ark. To wrap things up, Titus, the Flamekeeper, is torturing Murphy and finds a piece of metal that spells out Polaris. The puzzle pieces are starting to fit. Even while being tortured, Murphy uses his silver tongue to get Titus to spill the beans about the origins of the Grounder religion. He connects the dots and drops a bombshell. What if the first commander wasn't born on Earth, but came from the 13th station? And then, bam, flashback. We go back 97 years and discover that Ollie was responsible for the nuclear apocalypse, like a Skynet that went very, very wrong. Her creator, a scientist named Becca, tried to fix her mistake by creating Ollie 2.0, a version that would better connect with humanity. The problem is, the Ark from space thought Becca's station, Polaris, was a threat and blew it up. With no way out, Becca injects herself with a bizarre black liquid, implants the Ollie 2.0 chip into the back of her own neck, and escapes to Earth in a pod. Back in the present, things heat up and the moment all the fans were waiting for finally happens. Clark and Lexa get together. Afterward, Lexa announces her decision. She will blockade Arcadia until they deliver Pike's head. Titus, War's #1 fan, doesn't like this at all. He plots to kill Clark and frame Murphy, ensuring the chaos continues. But he has the aim of a stormtrooper and accidentally hits Lexa. Lexa dies in Clark's arms. And then comes the most shocking reveal of all. The spirit of the commander that passed from leader to leader is actually the Ollie 2.0 chip, which was implanted in the back of her neck. The Grounder religion was technology all along. The Grounders have set up a blockade at Arcadia's gate, and the only currency they accept is Pike's head. Either they hand over their leader, or no one gets in or out. In response, Pike, in full Rambo mode, prepares for war, while Kane, the group's diplomat, plans to serve him up on a platter. Kane's plan is worthy of a heist movie. Sinclair gets himself arrested on purpose, starts a brawl in his cell with Lincoln to distract the guards, and in the meantime, Kane kidnaps Pike. Simple, right? Not so much. Bellamy, who's still acting as Pike's personal bodyguard, intercepts the whole thing at the gate and crashes the party. Meanwhile, Raven convinces Jasper to play spy and break into Pike's office to retrieve the confiscated chipmaker. The mission goes well until Jasper mentions Finn, and Raven just looks at him blankly. The girl has completely deleted her ex from her memory. They realize immediately that the Ollie chip is causing a serious brain glitch and decide to leave the device behind. To end the episode with that classic "we're screwed" feeling, Pike, feeling completely justified, sentences Kane to death for treason.
What happened to you, Charles? You committed treason. It's over, Marcus. Is it?
The decision is so extreme that even Bellamy and Monty, Pike's biggest fans, start to wonder if they've chosen the wrong side of the Force in this war. In Polis, it's time for the Conclave to choose the next commander, but Antari, Queen Naya's former bodyguard, arrives in Highlander mode, declaring there can be only one, and simply murders all the other Nightblood candidates. After the slaughter, she proclaims herself the new commander. Seeing the mess, Titus names Clark the new Flamekeeper and gives her the Ollie 2.0 chip, which the Grounders call the Flame. Clark's mission is now to find Luna, another Nightblood no one knew existed. To ensure Antari can't use it, Titus takes himself out of the game. The new commander then forces Ronan Murphy to swear secrecy about the Flame's disappearance. Back in Arcadia, Bellamy, his conscience weighing on him, asks Octavia for help to save Kane, Lincoln, and Sinclair from execution. But Octavia and Indra are unforgiving and capture him instead. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Abby, Octavia, and the crew stage a mission, impossible-style rescue, with a little help from Monty, whose betrayal is covered up by his own mother. But Pike, true to form, threatens to execute all the imprisoned Grounders. To save his people, Lincoln turns himself in. As the others escape, a heartbroken Octavia watches from a distance as Pike executes Lincoln in cold blood. Murphy is now playing the role of a fake guru to help Antari convince the Grounders that she's the boss. The situation, however, turns very dark when she later assaults him. Meanwhile, Pike discovers Monty's betrayal. He joins Kane, Octavia, and a captured Bellamy at the old dropship. Bellamy then plays the Uno reverse card. He offers to lead the soldiers to the rest of the rebels, but instead, he leads them straight into the Grounder barricade and delivers Pike as a gift. Kane then goes with the Grounders to Polis. Meanwhile, Ollie's influence spreads through Arcadia like a zombie virus, with more and more people taking the chip. Raven, with help from Abby and Jasper, tries to control plus Alt plus Del the chip inside her, but Ollie fights back, returning all of Raven's physical pain to torture her. The AI uses her suffering suffering to coerce Abby into taking the chip too. Jasper, seeing that Arcadia has turned into a Black Mirror episode, manages to escape with an unconscious Raven and runs right into Clark on his way out. The reunion of the century has finally happened. Clark and her crew team up with Bellamy, Octavia, Monty, and Sinclair. The mission? Save Raven, whose mind is controlled by Ollie. The plan is basically a tech exorcism. Build an electromagnetic pulse, EMP device, using one of the old bracelets from the 100 to fry the chip in her brain. It's like shocking the system to force a reboot. The group goes to Nyla's trading post, which looks like a post-apocalyptic junkyard, to get a leftover bracelet. Meanwhile, Monty and Octavia head back to the dropship for more parts, but there, they run into Monty's mother Hannah, who is now an Ollie puppet. Things get ugly, and Monty has to make a horrible decision. He shoots his own mother to save Octavia, a heavy moment no one saw coming. Back at Nyla's post, it's like an emergency surgery. They use the EMP on Raven. The chip turns to goo, and Clark, playing doctor, uses a kit from Titus to remove the liquefied remains. Gross, but it works. As soon as she comes to, Raven drops the bomb. The only thing that can stop Allie is the flame. Now they have a new objective, and its name is MacGuffin. Clark's group arrives at Arcadia, but the place looks like a ghost town. 0 people, just dust. The good news is they find Lincoln's journal, which contains a map to someone named Luna. Before the treasure hunt can begin, a masked figure in true Scream fashion attacks Harper, Miller, and his boyfriend. Then, the target is Clark. She rips off the mask and discovers it's Carl Emerson, an old enemy back for revenge. Emerson kills Sinclair and traps the rest of the group in an airlock, planning to force Clark to watch them all suffocate, Jigsaw style. But Clark has a trick up her sleeve: the flame. She uses the artifact to fry Emerson and save her friends. After a quick funeral for Lincoln and Sinclair, the group splits up. Clark, Bellamy, Octavia, and Jasper become the Fellowship of the Ring and set off on a journey to find Luna. The rest stay behind to play tech support and try to hack Ollie. Meanwhile, in Polis, Murphy is reunited with the Mori, but the joy is short-lived. Jaha arrives and reveals that she's also part of Ollie's cult. Murphy is captured, and Jaha, acting like the Apocalypse's best chip salesman, convinces Antari to join the team. With the Grounder leader under her control, Ollie now commands practically everyone. Checkmate. We travel back in time with a flashback showing Pike teaching a How to Survive on Earth class to the 100 2 weeks before the first episode. He was like that tough-as-nails teacher everyone hates. After failing to convince Jaha to let him go with them, he decides to toughen up the kids by beating up Murphy in front of everyone, just to make an example. Back in the present, Kane and Pike arrive in Polis, now the Ollie world capital, and are immediately arrested by Antari. In prison, Pike gets a taste of his own medicine when Indra begins to torture him as revenge for the massacre of her people. But then Murphy, the most unlikely person in the world, plays diplomat and convinces Indra that they need to unite against Ollie. After all, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Jaha has an army of chipped soldiers. They don't feel any pain. That means they're not going to stop until all of us either join them or die.
Jaha continues his recruitment campaign and threatens Abby's life to force Kane to take the chip. Far away, Clark's team finally reaches their destination, a massive ocean. They send a signal and get drugged, obviously. They wake up on an abandoned oil rig, which is a pretty stylish base, and meet Luna, leader of the boat people. They offer her the flame, the only hope to save the world, and her response is a resounding no thanks. The Chosen One just refused the call. Now what? In Arcadia, things heat up and something finally happens between Harper and Monty. Meanwhile, Raven is in full hacker mode, trying to break into the City of Light. She gets past the first few firewalls but runs into an unexpected one, the spirit of Hannah, Monty's mom. To save everyone, Monty has to make the hardest choice of all and delete his own mother's code. Even with this sacrifice, Ollie is quicker on the draw and manages to transfer herself out of Arcadia before Raven can delete her main code. But not all is lost. Raven discovers the AI's Achilles heel, a hidden self-destruct switch. Meanwhile, in Polis, Team B, consisting of Murphy, Indra, and Pike, manages to escape the dungeon in true Prison Break style. They destroy Ollie's central processor there, but it's too late. The digital villain had already backed herself up to the cloud, literally to the Arch space station still in orbit. Back on the oil rig, Clark is in the ends justify the means mode and decides to force Luna to take the flame and become the commander. The plan backfires spectacularly. To make matters worse, some of Luna's followers return from the mainland already controlled by Ollie, capturing Jasper and Luna herself. After breaking free and taking out the minions, Luna realizes Clark won't give up. Fed up with her persistence, she drugs Clark and her entire group and sends them all back to the mainland. Basically, a get out and don't come back. Clark runs into Roan in the middle of the forest, like an unexpected Game of Thrones crossover. He agrees to help her infiltrate Polis. The new plan is to use Antari as a last resort to receive the flame. In Arcadia, we discover that Jasper was chipped by Ollie on the oil rig. He switches sides, sets a trap for Monty and Raven, and even takes Harper hostage. The guy who was the show's comic relief has become a horror movie villain. Back in Polis, the infiltration plan goes down the drain. Roan is shot by Kane, who is now nothing more than an Ollie puppet, and is dragged away. Clark is captured, and things get heavy. She is tortured by her own mother, Abby, who is also under the AI's control. It's the kind of family drama no amount of therapy can fix. The cavalry arrives with Murphy, Pike, and Indra, who rescue Bellamy and the rest of the crew. As the brawl against Ollie's followers rages on, Indra saves Kane from an explosion, but ends up captured. Bellamy and Murphy manage to reach Clark in time to save her, but Jaha, Ollie's #1 fan, ruins everything. He attacks Antari, inflicting an injury so severe that it leaves her brain dead, making it impossible to use the flame. In Arcadia, Monty becomes the hero of the day. He rescues Harper and manages to capture Jasper, who is still in Ollie propaganda mode. With Antari in a vegetative state, Clark comes up with the craziest, most desperate idea yet, to use Antari's nightblood on herself. Abby, now free from the AI's control, helps perform a blood transfusion so that Clark can receive the flame. It's like a soul transplant via blood transfusion. Totally safe. Trust them. While her friends fight to protect her body in the real world, Clark enters the City of Light, going full Neo from the Matrix, to find the off switch. It's a race against time, as Ollie could absorb the flame and delete the switch at any moment. Inside, she gets some spectral assistance from Lexa, who appears like a Force ghost to guide her mind, while Raven provides hacking coordinates. Clark reaches the final boss in a simulation of the Polaris station. There she finds Becca, the first commander, and Ollie herself, who drops the biggest plot twist. The world's abandoned nuclear power plants are melting down, and in 6 months, Earth will become a giant microwave. The City of Light was the only salvation. Clark insists that people should have the right to choose, but Ollie is programmed without free will. So, Clark does what she does best. She hits the big red button and shuts it all down. Ollie is deleted, and everyone is freed. Amid the chaos, Octavia finally avenges Lincoln and kills Pike. Clark then tells Bellamy the fight isn't over. They didn't save the world. They just postponed the next apocalypse. Clark hits Bellamy with a bombshell. According to Ollie, the world has only 6 months before its nuclear power plants melt down and turn the planet into a giant microwave. To make matters worse, the people Lexa wiped from the City of Light to protect Clark, they're dead for real. This sours the mood in Polis, and suddenly, Juan Haida and Sky Crew become public enemy #1. Seizing the opportunity, Echo of the Ice Nation decides it's the perfect time to attack and take the city. In a desperate move, Clark and Abby perform a makeshift surgery and save King Roan's life, who was on the verge of death. As soon as Roan wakes up, Echo is in his ear like a little devil on his shoulder, telling him to kill Clark. But Clark is playing 4D chess. She hands the flame to Roan, giving him the power. His authority secured, Roan declares himself the ruler of the 13 nations and announces that peace with Sky Crew is back on.
Let it be known that an attack against Sky Crew is an attack against us all.
While all hell is breaking loose, Murphy and Amori decide they've had enough drama, bail, and go live out their romance far away from everything. Clark, Bellamy, and Jaha return to Arcadia to try and find a solution to the impending apocalypse. There, Raven confirms the bad news. Ollie was right, and radiation levels are already rising. To end the episode on a truly desperate note, we see a radioactive death wave kill 2 people in Egypt. It's official. The end of the world has begun. We learn the tragic story of Ilian, a grounder who, under Ollie's control, killed his own family. Before she died, his mother begged him for vengeance. Meanwhile, in Polis, the mood is straight out of a soap opera. Kane and Abby finally give in to their romance, but the peace is short-lived, as an ambassador named Raphael, along with Ilian, hatches a plan to challenge King Roan's power. Even though he's all patched up from the last fight, Roan prepares to battle. Kane and Octavia try to talk it out, but it's no use. With no patience for diplomacy, Octavia activates her silent assassin mode and takes out Raphael, making it look like he died of natural causes. No one messes with Skyrepa. In Arcadia, the group comes up with with a bold plan: fix Alpha Station to survive the radiation. The problem is, they need a water generator that's in Ice Nation territory. The search and seizure mission turns into a rescue when they discover that several of their people are being held as slaves. The decision is unanimous: use the generator to create an explosion and free everyone. To make things more personal, the Grounder leader is the same man who killed Monty's father. Seeing this, Monty frees the slaves, who show no mercy and lynch the man to death. The team returns to Arcadia empty-handed, without a generator or water. With no other choice, Clark gathers everyone and tells them the truth about the death wave. To her surprise, instead of panic, the people decide to unite and fight. Jaha, Clark, and Bellamy go on an expedition to find a Plan B, a secret bunker built by a doomsday cult. They find the place, but it's a total bust. The shelter didn't have the right shielding, and everyone inside was turned into skeletons. Their hope goes down the drain. Back in Arcadia, the apocalypse arrives in full force. A group of grounders, including Nico and Luna, shows up with severe radiation sickness after eating contaminated fish. Abby, in full doctor mode, wants to use their scarce medicine, but Raven, now in charge of rationing, vetoes the idea. That's when Murphy, being Murphy, steals the medicine and gives it to Abby anyway. In Polis, the fight for the flame continues. The new Flamekeeper, Gaia, steals the artifact from King Roan. Octavia is about to handle it her way with her sword, but Indra stops her with a bombshell revelation. Gaia is her daughter. To get Roan off their backs, Octavia lies and says the flame was destroyed. At the same time, Ilian leads a rebellion and destroys all of Polis's technology. The harsh reality hits Arcadia. The shelter only has room for 100 people. Clark is forced to create a list, a nightmarish task. She puts Bellamy's name down as number 99, and in return, he writes hers in the final spot, 100. But in the midst of all the tragedy, a miracle happens. Luna is the only one who survives the radiation. Abby realizes her Nightblood is immune, which could be the key to saving everyone. Things kick off with high tension in Polis. Kane and Bellamy are sentenced to death after King Roan suddenly decides to end the alliance with Sky Crew and Tree Crew. He basically hit the unfriend button, and now the heat is on for everyone. Meanwhile, the science team, Abby, Raven, Murphy, and Luna, returns to Ollie's Island. Their mission is to figure out how to use Luna's Nightblood to save humanity from the coming radiation, but the mission goes sideways. Drones show up, guns blazing, and Nico is killed in the process. The tragedy pushes Luna, who is already unstable, to her breaking point. Elsewhere, Echo decides to play the hunter and goes after Octavia. The two face off in a movie-worthy sword fight, but Octavia gets the short end of the stick. She's stabbed and falls off a cliff. But, like in any good action script, she survives the fall. To end the episode with even more drama, Monty and Jasper discover Clark's secret list of 100 names, like a burn book for who gets to survive the apocalypse. The gossip spreads like wildfire, and it's up to Jaha to put out the fire and calm down the furious crowd. Raven and Abby discover they've gotten an unexpected brain upgrade. Since they were disconnected from Ollie by an EMP, and not by Clark's master shutdown, a bit of the AI's knowledge was left behind in their brains. It's like Ollie left them a parting gift on a flash drive. With this new superpower, they learn that Becca used to manufacture Nightblood on the Ark, up in space, and luck seems to be on their side. They find a rocket and start planning a space mission to produce the cure and save the human race. Meanwhile, on the ground, Ilian uses Octavia as a Trojan horse to get inside Arcadia. As soon as she arrives, Octavia, who is no fool, warns everyone that King Roan is planning to take the ship by force. Clark, ever the diplomat, goes to negotiate with him. After a long talk, they strike a deal to share Arcadia, splitting it 50-50. But Ilian wasn't there to make friends. He simply blows up the entire ship, sending everyone's only chance of survival up in flames. The episode ends with everyone watching in shock as their hope turns to ash. We've got a road trip, except instead of music and snacks, Clark, Bellamy, and Roan are transporting 10 barrels of hydrazine, a highly volatile fuel. The goal is to get this precious cargo to Raven, who needs it for her space mission to create Nightblood. It's the most stressful road trip ever. Meanwhile, in Arcadia, the vibe is pure Wild West. The people want to execute Ilian for destroying the ship, ready for some vigilante justice. Kane, acting as the group's father figure, tries to handle things peacefully. Octavia, however, is in no mood to talk. She points a gun at Ilian's head, ready to pull the trigger, but Kane stops her, hitting her with the hard truth that Lincoln was murdered in a similar way. The comparison completely breaks her. She has an emotional collapse and bolts. In a quieter moment, Clark does a solid for her lover, Nyla, and invites her to stay in Arcadia for a while. But of course, the road trip was never going to be easy. The trio is attacked by Trickru warriors, and in the chaos, one of the fuel barrels is pierced by an arrow and empties out. When Raven hears the news over the radio, the shock is so great that she has a seizure. The drama starts with black rain falling from the sky, like a gothic version of the apocalypse. While the Sky People hide in the ruins of Arcadia, Bellamy tries to play the hero and save a father and son trapped outside, but he fails, and can only watch the tragedy unfold. Meanwhile, Octavia and Ilian take shelter in a cave. The mood gets tense when he brings up Lincoln's name, and Octavia snaps, trying to kill herself in the toxic rain. Ilian stops her, and in true post-near-death tension fashion, they end up sleeping together. Afterward, she decides to go with him to his family's abandoned farm. Over on Becca's island, the lab is running at full steam. Abby tells Clark her new crazy plan: inject Luna's bone marrow into a test subject to see if it creates immunity. The catch? To test it, they need to use a dose of radiation that will probably fry the person. It's science on hardcore mode. Lucky for them, a grounder thief breaks into the mansion and gets caught. Emery immediately points the finger and claims the guy is Bayless, her arch nemesis. She wants revenge, but Clark has a better idea. Use this Bayless as the lab rat they need. The decision is morally questionable, but it solves their problem. But in the end, Amori confesses to Murphy that it was all a lie. The thief was a nobody, and she only made up the story so she wouldn't end up being the test subject herself, a master move to save her own skin. The plan to use the thief as a guinea pig goes down the drain. The guy dies during the test. With that, Emery's lie is exposed, and her plan backfires. Now, she's next in line to become a science experiment. Murphy tries to stop it and ends up tied up, while Luna tries to escape and gets knocked out by Roan. The lab has turned into a madhouse. Tired of waiting for a solution, Clark takes a drastic step. She injects herself with Luna's bone marrow, becoming a makeshift Nightblood. But before she can test herself in the radiation chamber, her mother, Abby, has a breakdown. Guided by hallucinations, she destroys the equipment to prevent her daughter from dying. Goodbye, Plan A. Far away in Arcadia, Jaha has an epiphany. He hears Nyla use a phrase from an old cult and realizes the shelter he found was just a decoy. Suspecting Gaia knows something, he, Kane, and Monty head to Paulus. The city is in chaos, with the Tree People and the Ice Nation killing each other for control. With Gaia's help, they solve the mystery. Using a talisman found in the fake shelter, they discover that the real bunker has been hidden beneath Polis the whole time. Salvation was literally under their feet. News of the bunker spreads through Polis faster than gossip, and now every clan wants a piece of the apocalyptic pie. To try and keep the peace, Clark takes on the role of commander. The problem is, they soon find out her Nightblood is a DIY job, not the original brand. Seeing this, Roan decides the best solution is a good old-fashioned final conclave, a battle to the death to decide which clan gets the shelter. Basically, a survival battle royale. Meanwhile, in Arcadia, the group is divided. Jasper and a handful of the original 100 want to throw an end-of-the-world party and wait for the death wave. Bellamy, on the other hand, tries to be the responsible adult, wanting to get the 400+ survivors to the shelter before it's too late. Raven decides to stay behind at the lab. Haunted by a hallucination of Becca, she dedicates herself to fixing a space rocket in a last-ditch escape attempt. Murphy and Amori, ever the opportunists, bail on the madness and head for the bunker on their own. Far from it all, Octavia tries to live a quiet life on Ilian's farm, but the peace doesn't last. 3 hostile grounders show up, and the encounter ends with Octavia brutally killing them all. It's then she realizes she can't escape who she is. She's not a farmer, she's a warrior. It's time for the fight to the death in Polis to decide which clan gets the shelter. It's like the Hunger Games, but with fewer bows and arrows and more axes. Octavia, Roan, and Ilian enter the arena to represent their clans. Luna is also in the fight, but with a real Joker vibe. If she wins, nobody gets in the bunker, and everyone dies. Simple as that. During the fight, they discover Echo is cheating to help Roan, without his knowledge. When she's exposed, Roan himself, an honorable guy, banishes Echo as punishment. Later, Octavia tries to form an alliance with Ilian, but Echo, who clearly can't take a loss, appears out of nowhere and shoots him in the neck with an arrow. What a cheap shot.
Trishana crew needed me.
In the end, only 3 warriors remain. Octavia and Roan team up against Luna, but then the weather turns and it starts raining black acid. Bad for them, but great for Luna, who is a Nightblood and practically immune to the stuff. Despite the disadvantage, the fight rages on. Luna manages to kill Roan, but in the final one-on-one, Octavia turns the tables and defeats the super soldier from the sea. She is the champion. Like a true leader, Octavia announces that the bunker will be shared equally, 100 spots for each clan. Super fair, right? Wrong. While everyone was busy killing each other outside, the people of Sky Crew simply entered the bunker and locked the door in everyone else's face. It's the ultimate betrayal. Inside the bunker, the mood is heavy. Clark and Jaha are in nobody in, nobody out mode, wanting to secure humanity's future by locking the door. But Abby helps Bellamy unlock it, because family is family, right? Clark tries to stop him, but can't bring herself to use force against him. Outside, Echo tries to rat out Sky Crew's scheme, but Octavia, the new boss, shuts her up immediately, threatening to tell everyone about her cheating in the fight. To top it off, she banishes Echo from the bunker for good. Take that. Now Octavia's decision becomes a huge problem for Clark. She has 12 hours to kick out over 300 of her own people, leaving only 100. Meanwhile, in Arcadia, things get grim. The group that stayed behind decides to throw a farewell party and commits mass suicide using those hallucinogenic Joby nuts. Jasper dies in a devastated Monty's arms. In the midst of the tragedy, Harper decides she loves Monty enough to want to live. At least one piece of good news. Far away, Raven is having intense hallucinations of Becca, who wants her to give up. But a hallucination of Sinclair gives her a brilliant idea. To get rid of Ollie's code, she needs to temporarily kill herself. It's like a Control plus Alt plus Del for her brain. And what do you know? It works. She reboots and is cured. The math in the bunker just doesn't add up. Jaha and Kane are butting heads over how to choose the 100 Sky Crew members who will survive, since they need to make room for the other clans. The idea of a lottery only makes the tension worse, and Abby even offers to give up her spot. In the end, the two of them make a decision worthy of a movie villain. They release a gas to knock everyone out and use Clark's infamous list to decide who stays. Who needs democracy, right? Meanwhile, Clark, Bellamy, Murphy, and Amori form a rescue squad to get Raven, who's still at the lab. On the way, they're attacked by a group of grounders, but who shows up to save the day? Echo again trying to clear her name. During the fight, Amori's suit is damaged, and Clark, without a second thought, gives Amori her own helmet, exposing herself to the radiation. The problem? It seems her Nightblood isn't working. With no time to get back to Polis, they call Monty and Harper and hatch a completely insane plan. If they can't survive on Earth, why not try space? The new mission is to get to what's left of the Ark and wait for the radioactive dust to settle from above. It's the most desperate and brilliant plan at the same time. The death wave is closing in on Polis, and everyone is scrambling like it's the end of a Black Friday sale. Clark, Bellamy, Raven, and the rest of the crew are at the lab, trying to get a rocket ready to escape to the Ark. The mission is simple: get out before the planet turns into a barbecue. But since nothing is ever easy, Monty gets badly injured while trying to retrieve an oxygen generator. With the clock ticking down to just 25 minutes before the apocalypse, the plan starts to fall apart. Clark needs to activate the Ark's power remotely using a satellite tower, like a last-minute hack, but the makeshift fix fails, and she ends up missing the rocket launch. Still, she doesn't give up and manages to power on the Ark. Clark races back to the lab with the death wave nipping at her heels, but by the time she gets there, it's too late. The radiation hits her full on. Up on the Ark, the crew nearly runs out of air, but the oxygen generator is installed at the last second. Earth is completely devastated. Cut to 6 years and 7 days later. And here comes the plot twist. Clark is very much alive, thanks to her special Nightblood. And she's not alone. She's with a little girl, Maddie, who is also a Nightblood. As Clark desperately tries to make contact with the Ark, a mysterious ship lands in the only Green Valley left, and the sign on its side is anything but friendly. Prisoner transport. They're screwed. We jump back in time, 6 weeks after Priam Faya, to see how Clark survived. It's basically an episode of Man vs. Wild, but with more radiation. She's in the rover, hunting for food and water. First, she goes to Polis and tries to dig out the bunker, with no luck. Then, she heads to Arcadia and finds a bunch of things left behind by her friends, including Jasper's goggles and his goodbye letter to Monty. A total downer. The journey continues until the rover breaks down in the middle of a desert sandstorm. Clark hits rock bottom, even considering giving up, but she follows a bird and finds paradise, the shallow valley. There, she finds a little Nightblood girl who runs away from her. Clark tries to befriend her, but the girl is skittish. The only thing that works is when Clark draws a picture of her. Back in the present, 6 years later, Clark and Maddie are living together. Up in space, Raven and the ARC crew see the prisoner ship arriving. On Earth, Clark watches the passengers disembark. The men are hostile and nearly kill Maddie, forcing Clark into action to protect her cub. Meanwhile, on the Ark, Echo confesses to Bellamy that she's scared to go back to Earth, and down in the bunker, Octavia is watching her warriors fight to the death, like a Roman empress in a subterranean coliseum. Right after Prime Fire, the tension in the bunker is already thick. Kane and Abby hear Clark banging on the door, but when they try to open it, they find it sealed by rubble. The people of Sky Crew are not happy about this, and a group of rebels stages a coup, locking a portion of their own people in the farm area. In the chaos, Jaha gets stabbed. Octavia decides not to kill him because she needs his skills as an engineer. With the help of Jaha, Indra, and Gaia, Octavia resolves the locked door situation and shows everyone who's in charge. When some grounders question her leadership, she doesn't hesitate. She kills them and drops the line, "You are either Wonkru or you are the enemy of Wonkru." Everyone kneels to the new leader. After opening the door, they rush to help Jaha, but it's too late. He dies as Kane recites the Sky Crew prayer. As punishment for the coup plotters, Octavia creates a new rule: they will fight to the death. A woman named Kara ends up winning the mini-tournament. 6 years later, we see this has become the official justice of Wonkru. Octavia watches the fights, and in the new batch of combatants entering the arena, we see a very familiar face, Kane himself. Clark and Maddie are playing a deadly game of hide-and-seek with the new crew from Eligius. Dioza, their leader, sends McCreary to hunt them down and get information. He captures Clark and brings her to Dioza, who uses the dirtiest trick in the villain handbook. She threatens to shoot Maddie if Clark doesn't talk. Of course, Mama Bear caves instantly. Meanwhile, in space, Raven and the gang are on the Eligius 4, trying to figure out a way back to Earth. Monty and Murphy bicker like an old married couple, until Echo finds a lab full of human popsicles, cryogenically frozen prisoners. Suddenly, one of them is remotely unfrozen from the ground and attacks Bellamy, who is forced to take the guy out for good. Raven has a brilliant idea: use the frozen prisoners as leverage against Dioza. To do this, she needs to stay behind. Bellamy hates the plan, so Raven lies through her teeth, telling him she has an escape pod just for herself. With that, Bellamy, Echo, Monty, Harper, and Amori head down to Earth. Murphy, in an act of either heroism or stupidity, decides to stay with Raven and finds out the truth. There is no pod. They're trapped. On Earth, Bellamy's group immediately runs into Eligius men, but Maddie, in full mini-warrior mode, takes them down and leads everyone to Clark, who is being tortured with a shock collar. Bellamy arrives in the nick of time, looking like a mob boss, and makes an offer: let Clark go, or your 283 frozen friends become space dust. Checkmate. Octavia continues her reign of terror in the bunker, punishing Tane for stealing medicine, a capital crime against Wonkru. On the surface, Bellamy and Clark are finally reunited after the deal with Dioza, but Dioza is playing 4D chess. She pretends to accept the deal while secretly trying to hack the mothership. With this fragile alliance, Bellamy and Clark, with the help of Dioza and McCreary, manage to break open the bunker and free everyone. Octavia is the first to taste freedom. Up in space, things are looking bad. Miles, one of the prisoners, tries to eject Raven and Murphy into the vacuum by opening the docks. Their response is epic. They wake up all the frozen prisoners, turning the ship into total chaos. Back on the ground, the deal is off. The Eligius soldiers break their promise and kidnap Kane and Abby. They try to launch missiles at Wonkru, but the system says invalid launch code. Miles warns that it could only have been Raven, so they take a ship to go after her. Seeing the betrayal, Octavia assumes her role as Blodrena and screams for her people to prepare for war. The peace lasted for less time than an Instagram story. Dioza puts Abby and Kane to work as private doctors for Vincent, one of the sinister prisoners. Meanwhile, Octavia, hungry for battle, leads her army on a march toward the shallow valley. Up above, McCreary is back to his favorite pastime, torturing Raven for the weapons codes, threatening to kill Murphy if she doesn't cooperate. But then comes the plot twist. Miles points a gun at McCreary's head and reveals he was the one who disabled everything. Do we have a double agent in our midst? On Earth, Earth, Abby warns Dioza that she's no miracle worker and might not be able to cure Vincent. With Miles's help, Murphy manages to escape and runs right into Echo. The group, Murphy, Harper, Amori, Monty, and Maddie, teams up to find Bellamy, but McCreary activates Murphy's shot collar from a distance. Amori stays behind to care for him while the rest move on. During Wonkru's march, a soldier suddenly dies, and bizarre worms burst from his chest in a scene straight out of Alien. The army panics and retreats. It's at this moment that the van with Bellamy and the others arrives. Octavia is furious to see Bellamy and Echo's happy reunion, showing that the family drama is more alive than ever. At least Maddie and Clark make up, bringing a tiny bit of peace to the chaos. Things start off tense with Octavia confronting Bellamy about his thing with Echo. To make it clear she's not kidding, she reiterates, Echo is still banished, a straight red card. Just then, Dioza's ship appears, like an apocalypse delivery service, bringing apples and an offer of VIP transport for anyone who wants to desert Wonkru, a real escape the blow Draina promotion.
Abandon your weapons, leave Wonkru behind and join us in Shallow Valley. We have plenty of
Octavia, no fool, tries to turn Echo into a double agent, offering a pardon in exchange for intel on who's planning to defect. But Echo has a better plan. She'll pretend to be a deserter, like a Mission Impossible, to infiltrate Dioza's camp and hack their system with the help of Monty, the group's tech genius. Octavia agrees, but to maintain her tough reputation, she guns down a few escapees. Aggressive marketing, right? Meanwhile, Murphy and Amori have a DIY moment trying to remove his shock collar. In the middle of their makeshift operation, they use the collar to set a trap and take the opportunity to rekindle their romance. As a bonus, they find McCreary, who survived the explosion and is now their hostage. Clark, for her part, is in full mama bear mode, paranoid that Octavia will get rid of Maddie for being a Nightblood. Her plan? Escape with the deserters. But Maddie, worried for Clark's safety, solves the problem herself. She goes to Octavia and tells her the truth about her blood. To everyone's surprise, Octavia not only accepts it, but promotes Maddie to be her new warrior apprentice. To wrap things up, Echo successfully enters the enemy camp, completing the first part of her Trojan Horse mission. Kane finds Abby on the floor, clearly high on meds after a surgery gone wrong. He confronts her, and even though she denies it, the tension is thick. Kane lays down an ultimatum straight out of a soap opera. It's either him or the pills. Meanwhile, Dioza is vetting the Wonkru deserters like an end-of-the-world job interview to see who might be useful. To earn her new boss's trust, Echo throws Shaw under the bus, accusing him of sabotaging the systems. Raven is not happy about it, but the distraction works. While Dioza focuses on Shaw, Echo manages to install Monty's spyware on the prisoner's system. Shortly after, Shaw shows up beaten and wearing a shock collar, proving Echo's betrayal had consequences. Back at the bunker, Clark and Bellamy discover Cooper's secret project, a parasite worm farm to be used as a biological weapon. It's as disgusting as it is brilliant, and Octavia's plan is just that, use the next group of deserters as walking worm bombs. In the midst of this chaos, Dioza drops a personal bombshell on Abby. She's pregnant. Maddie, who had been playing dumb in training, reveals she's a mini John Wick in a fight, impressing Octavia and becoming her second in command. Clark tries to negotiate peace with Dioza, but the only offer is unconditional surrender, something Octavia would never accept. Seeing that diplomacy has failed, Clark comes to a dark conclusion. For there to be peace, Octavia must be eliminated. Octavia is in full-on war mode and ready to annihilate Dioza, but Clark is completely against it. Monty, who has become a master farmer and perfected his algae crop, pleads for peace, but no one listens. Fed up with the violence, he decides he won't go to war with the rest of them. He's had enough of this nonsense. Seeing that Octavia won't back down, Clark and Bellamy team up with Indra on a sabotage mission. The idea is to use Cooper's own worms against her, killing her, and making it look like a very bizarre workplace accident. While the drama unfolds, Dioza and Kane share a moment of peace, talking about the pregnancy and dreaming of a better future. Raven discovers Abby's addiction and feels betrayed when she realizes she was tricked into creating a device that cures the prisoner's lung disease. Their friendship turns sour, but Octavia is no amateur. She finds Cooper's body and immediately knows it was murder. And then comes the plot twist. She reveals to Indra that her real plan wasn't to use the worms, but their eggs, a much more discreet tactic. The blame, of course, falls on Clark, who is arrested for treason and sentenced to death. To top it all off, during a very tense family dinner, Bellamy poisons his sister's food with Monty's algae. The war is now at home. home. Indra goes to Wonkru and basically throws in the towel, announcing she's surrendering to Diyoza, but Miller, who isn't messing around, challenges her and vies for leadership. To no one's surprise, Wonkru sides with him. Seeing her plan fall apart, Indra tells Bellamy the only way to stop the war is to make Maddie the new commander. Clark obviously freaks out at the idea, but Bellamy doesn't care and leaves his friend chained up so he can proceed with the plan. Meanwhile, in Eden, Murphy decides to be an agent of chaos. He whispers in McCreary's ear that Diyoza has the cure for the lung disease, and just like that, a civil war breaks out. All hell breaks loose. McCreary becomes the new boss of the valley, and Diyoza has to flee. In the confusion, Raven, Emory, Echo, and Shaw manage to escape, but Kane and Murphy stay behind to find Abby. Octavia wakes up to discover Bellamy's betrayal. Indra, ever the strategist, locks her in a room to keep her out of the way, but Nyla frees Clark, who goes straight for Octavia, ready to finish her. Surprisingly, Octavia agrees that Maddie shouldn't become commander. Too bad it's too late. Gaia has already performed the ceremony, and Maddie now has the flame. Clark arrives, grabs her daughter, and bails in the rover. To cap it off, Octavia arrests Bellamy, Indra, and Gaia, and sentences them all to fight in the arena. But when no one is looking, she breaks down and cries. Heavy is the head that wears the crown, huh? Clark is on the road with Maddie and wants to rip the flame out of her head at any cost. But Maddie stands her ground, saying the flame is giving her visions like Aang and Avatar, showing her the lives of past commanders, including Becca herself.
I can save you! Maddie!
I can save all of you!
Meanwhile, Octavia is in a deep funk, remembering when Bellamy was her protective older brother. They finally talk, and he says that even poisoning her was a way of protecting her. Deep down, she doesn't want him to die and even gives him a tip about one of Indra's weaknesses for the arena fight. To make things better, Monty arrives with the best news of the century. The hydroponic farm is working again. They have a way to grow food and survive. But Octavia ignores it all and sends them to the arena anyway. Over in the valley, McCreary is blackmailing Abby, hiding her pills to force her to create the cure. Abby, no fool, makes a deal with Vincent to get the pills back. The plan works, but not before he attacks some guards, and Abby passes out after taking the meds. Clark and Maddie find Abby unconscious. Back in the arena, just as the fight is about to begin, Monty tells everyone the truth. The farm works, and Octavia knew the whole time. Wonkru turns on her instantly. Octavia's reaction? She burns the entire farm to the ground. Now there are only two options: march with her to war, or stay behind and starve. No pressure. Clark manages to save Abby from the overdose, but the relief is short-lived. McCreary shows up with some classic soap opera villain-level blackmail. Either Abby heals his people, or the two of them will watch Maddie die. Meanwhile, the good guy crew, Raven, Emory, Murphy, and Echo, heads out to scout a way into the valley. Raven puts Shaw on timeout, but he follows them anyway, and it's a good thing he did, because Murphy, with his usual genius ideas, suggests they steal the munitions instead of just scouting, and the group walks right into an ambush. Who saves the day? Shaw, of course. And here comes the bombshell. We finally find out what happened during the bunker's dark year. Protein supplies were running low, and the solution was to resort to extreme measures, using the losers from the fighting pits as a food source. Heavy stuff. Back in the present, Clark and Abby are healing McCreary's people, and Maddie, now armed with the wisdom of the commanders, confronts her mother, telling her they're on the wrong side of the war. Bellamy, trying to be the voice of reason, tells Octavia about a safe path to invade the valley. His condition is clear. She has to accept McCreary's surrender and share the territory. And, believe it or not, Octavia agrees. But just when we think peace is on the horizon, Diyoza and Kane show up to talk to McCreary. Their offer? They know every move Wonkru will make and can help McCreary win the war. Loyalty in this show has a shorter lifespan than a phone battery. McCreary's men come in hot, setting up an ambush for Wonkru in the gorge. The result is a massacre, and to make matters worse, Bellamy, Octavia, Indra, and Gaia are pinned down. Maddie hears the attack over the radio and wants to play the hero, but Clark, in full-on overprotective mom mode, puts a shot collar on her, forcing her to stay out of harm's way. The surviving members of Wonkru retreat and chaos ensues. Seeing the mess, Echo, Raven, and Shaw decide to raid McCreary's camp to rescue Maddie and install her as the leader, but Clark betrays the trio and serves them up to the villain on a silver platter. What a backstab. Meanwhile, Vincent has a psychotic break and attacks Kane, beating him to a pulp. but Abby shows up and finishes Vincent off without a second thought. Back to the main conflict, Maddie, using Lex's memories from the flame, finally convinces Clark to switch sides. With her head on straight, Clark kills McCreary's guards and decides to stay behind to sabotage the transport ship. Back at the Gorge, Octavia is about to sacrifice herself as bait to save Bellamy and the others, but at the last second, the Rover appears with Bellamy's group and Maddie, saving the day in true Fast and Furious style. Bellamy's group, along with Maddie, Octavia, Gaia, and Indra, returns to Wonkru. In an epic moment, Octavia, once the all-powerful Blodreina, kneels before Maddie, unifying Wonkru under a new command. Meanwhile, Clark, who stayed behind, frees Dioza and uses her pregnancy as blackmail to keep the transport ship grounded. This woman doesn't mess around. With the path clear, Bellamy's people invade the Gorge and take out the enemy defenses. Realizing he's lost, McCreary activates a scorched earth protocol to destroy the entire valley. But before he can watch the show, Clark kills him. With the planet about to be destroyed, everyone rushes to the Eligius mothership. The plan is to take a 10-year cryo nap and wait for Earth to recover. Except when Clark and Bellamy wake up, it hasn't been 10 years. It's been 125. They're greeted by Jordan, the son of Monty and Harper, who chose not to sleep. Through video logs, they discover that Earth never recovered. But Monty, the series' true MVP, managed to hack the files of an old mission and found a new habitable planet. Before he died, he programmed the ship to take them there, giving everyone a new beginning. Clark, Bellamy, and a small scouting party head down to the moon, Alpha, to see if their new home is safe. The place looks like a paradise, but the joy is short-lived. While fleeing a swarm of native insects, Shaw runs headfirst into a radiation shield and dies instantly. First casualty on the new world. The rest of the group finds a compound that appears abandoned. Inside, Bellamy finally confronts Clark about the radio call she ignored, unearthing old drama. Their argument is cut short when they find a bizarre children's book, which explains that a double solar eclipse releases a toxin into the air that drives everyone insane and violent. And it's not a myth. Out of nowhere, Emery snaps and stabs Murphy, trying to kill him. The threat is real. Meanwhile, on the ship, Abby is in the middle of a desperate surgery to save Kane. Needing blood, she orders Sky Crew to be awakened. The problem is, Octavia wakes up too, and, without a second thought, goes to confront Kane about his betrayal. The argument is so intense that it causes him to hemorrhage internally, forcing Abby to put him back on ice. It seems Earth's problems came along for the ride. We open with a flashback to 236 years ago, when the first humans from Earth arrived on Sanctum, a random moon. A double solar eclipse hits, and the lead scientist of the expedition completely loses his mind and murders everyone. Cut to the present, and guess what? History is repeating itself. The eclipse toxin is driving Clark, Bellamy, Echo, Emery, and the whole crew completely insane. They try to chain themselves up to avoid a tragedy, like werewolves on a full moon, but the plan fails spectacularly. Clark, Bellamy, and Murphy end up loose, and chaos erupts. Bellamy channels his inner Jason Voorhees and tries to take out Clark and Murphy, but Clark, ever the prepared one, uses a sleep grenade and knocks all three of them out. Problem solved, for now. Meanwhile, a group of the planet's inhabitants, very cleverly, steals their dropship and takes control of the mothership. It's the equivalent of getting carjacked with you still inside. In the mothership's mess hall, Wonkru decides it's the perfect time for a reckoning with Octavia for all her past transgressions. The fight gets ugly. To save the day, Raven wakes up Dioza, and together with Maddie, they form their own Charlie's Angels and retake the bridge. After the commotion, a group heads down to the planet. Abby, Dioza, Raven, Maddie, Jordan, Gaia, some random prisoner, and Octavia, who crashes the party. Upon arrival, Raven has terrible news. Shaw is dead. To complete the bizarre scene, a group of children runs towards them, thinking they've come to take them back home. With the eclipse over, the residents of Sanctum return to normal. Clark, wasting no time, goes straight to their leader, Russell, and asks for her people to be allowed to stay. Russell, who's no fool, makes a counteroffer. He wants Raven to bring the ship inside Sanctum's radiation shield for safety. The final decision on their stay will be made over a dinner between him and Clark, a true business date. Meanwhile, Jordan is smitten with a local girl, Delilah, who is preparing for her naming day, a ritual to become a prime. To make small talk, Jordan decides to spill Clark's entire rap sheet. the infamous Wanheda, and how she killed a mountain of people to protect her own. Terrible idea. Russell overhears the gossip and obviously denies Clark's request. Way to go, Jordan. Far away, Maddie, Diyoza, and Gaia are ambushed by a sinister group known as the Children of Gabriel. They steal the weapons and, in a dark ritual, defile the bodies of a young girl's deceased family as they chant, "Death to the Primes." As Raven's group approaches, Octavia, who never shies away from a fight, goes full Rambo and annihilates the Children of Gabriel. Bellamy is not pleased with the carnage and makes a drastic decision. He exiles his own sister, leaving Octavia to die alone in the woods. Back in Sanctum, Delilah and another girl, Rose, are kidnapped by the Children of Gabriel. Clark, in her default hero mode, manages to rescue Delilah. Seeing this, Russell changes his mind and allows the people from Earth to stay. But it's not all good news. He recognizes Diyoza as a famous terrorist and banishes her from Sanctum. One in, one out.
Charmaine Diyoza?
Yes?
Escort this woman past the shield, right now!
Alone in the forest, Diyoza is approached by Jade, a Sanctum guard. She offers a deal. If Diyoza rescues the girl Rose from the Children of Gabriel, her unborn child will be allowed to be raised in Sanctum. Speaking of the Children of Gabriel, they're torturing Octavia to find out if the group from Earth has any hosts. In other words, Nightbloods. One of them, Tosh, wants to kill Octavia and Rose, but another, Xavier, prefers to take them to their leader, the Old Man. While they argue, Octavia, never one to wait around, escapes with Rose. The Children of Gabriel give chase, but Diyoza arrives just in time, like the cavalry, and saves them both. Unfortunately, in the chaos, Tosh manages to kill Rose. Now with a common enemy, Octavia and Diyoza form an unlikely duo to hunt down the remaining Children of Gabriel and their mysterious leader. In Sanctum, it's Delilah's naming day. The ritual includes a moment to make amends. Clark, ever the diplomat, accepts an apology from a resident, but Raven isn't in a forgiving mood. After the ceremony, Delilah returns completely different. She is now Priya 7th and has no idea who Jordan is, as if she's been factory reset. Things get even weirder when Killian, one of the locals, reveals himself to be a spy for the Children of Gabriel and paralyzes Clark. Caught red-handed, he chooses to kill himself rather than be interrogated. Russell and his wife Simone see the paralyzed Clark and realize they've struck gold. She's a Nightblood. Instead of waiting 56 years for a new host, they decide to use her to bring their daughter Josephine back to life. They wipe Clark's mind, essentially killing her, and insert a chip with Josephine's consciousness. In the end, Josephine wakes up in Clark's body, and the first thing she does is get revenge on Kaylee, who killed her last host. No time for breakfast, only vengeance. Soon after, her parents arrive with a plan straight out of a soap opera. They force Josephine to pretend to be Clark to find out if there are any more Nightbloods among the people from Earth. Meanwhile, Jordan has a bad feeling about Delilah, who doesn't seem like herself anymore. He, Bellamy, Murphy, and Gaia decide to investigate and find a secret room. And here comes the season's plot twist. The Primes are basically immortal. They use mind drives to hijack the bodies of Nightbloods, wiping the host's mind in the process. It's like a consciousness download that formats the old hard drive. Clark shows up and, to everyone's surprise, defends this bizarre practice. Bellamy, who's no fool, senses something is wrong and confronts the fake Clark. Josephine doesn't mince words. She admits she's not Clark and knocks him out. And like any good villain, she needs a sidekick, so she offers Murphy immortality in exchange for his help. Far away, Octavia and Diyoza are chasing a guy named Xavier and end up trapped in some weird quicksand. Octavia panics and struggles, which only makes her sink faster. To make matters worse, a temporal flare is heading their way. Xavier throws them a rope, but it's too late for Octavia, who sinks, almost completely. One of her hands remains above the surface. Diyoza, who had fled, returns and digs Octavia out. Murphy has become an acting coach, teaching Josephine how to mimic Clark down to the smallest detail. Her plan is to trick Abby into reactivating the Nightblood program. The excuse? To save Kane by turning him into a Nightblood so he can be resurrected in another body. She even asked her mother Simone for a few spare mind drives for Murphy and Abby as payment for their cooperation. Meanwhile, Maddie is seeing things. Shade Hedda, the Dark Commander, is appearing in her head like an evil ghost. Gaia tries a separation ritual to kick him out, but it's no use. Elsewhere, Raven finds out about the Primes and goes to confront Riker. Speaking of bizarre things, Octavia's hand is aging at an alarming rate. great, like a scene from a horror movie. Xavier warns her, if it reaches her brain, she's a goner. Echo, meanwhile, is looking for Bellamy, who is actually locked up somewhere. Murphy tries to convince Bellamy not to seek revenge for Clark's death, and after much persistence, he finally gives in. Back to Maddie. Shade Hedda whispers in her ear to kill Gaia and everyone else, but instead, Maddie just banishes Gaia. Outside, Xavier and Dioza can't heal Octavia's hand, but then her hand starts drawing a spiral. Xavier has a eureka moment and realizes the temporal flare was a message from the anomaly. The unlikely trio decides to head there, and when Josephine goes to sleep, we get the biggest twist yet. Clark is still alive, trapped inside her own mind. We're inside Clark's head, in a true mind palace. We discover she survived thanks to a piece of Ollie that remained in her from the City of Light, and Ollie is there, like an antivirus, helping Clark protect a specific memory that the Primes can't access. On this mental journey, Clark comes face to face with ghosts from her past, her father, her Blodreina version of Octavia, and even Maya. Josephine appears in her mind and tries some reverse psychology, convincing Clark to sacrifice herself for the good of her people. But just as Clark is about to give up, a manifestation of Monty appears to give her a moral boost. He convinces her to spy on Josephine's memories, and what she discovers is horrifying. Josephine promoted a bizarre form of eugenics, where anyone who couldn't produce Nightblood children was discarded. Basically, only the Primes deserve to live. This gives Clark the fuel to keep fighting, but she can't retake her body, and only ends up making Josephine angrier. On the outside, Bellamy and Miller are using Clark's death to negotiate a deal with Russell. During the meeting, Clark achieves the impossible. She controls a finger and sends a message in Morse code to Bellamy, telling him she's alive. Bellamy, being sharp, understands immediately and tells Miller they're going to rescue Clark. Josephine runs to tell her parents that Clark is still there and that she knows how to get rid of her for good. With Raven's help, Abby goes full Dr. Frankenstein and manages to recreate the Nightblood serum, resurrecting Kane in the body of a man named Gavin. That's right, consciousness download complete. Meanwhile, Dioza and Octavia are on their way to the anomaly with Xavier, who drops a bombshell. He's actually Gabriel Santiago, the legendary rebel leader. Apparently, his followers resurrected him in the original Xavier's body against his will. There's so much body snatching going on, it's starting to feel like a horror movie. At the anomaly, things get weird. A hallucination of Dioza's daughter appears and lures her into the green portal, leaving her fate unknown. Octavia, without a second thought, follows her and emerges on the other side. Completely healed, it seems the anomaly is a cosmic spa with miraculous powers. Back in Sanctum, Josephine, still using Clark's body as a rental car, hatches a plan to erase Clark's consciousness for good. She recruits Riker, Amori, and even Murphy. The problem is her dad, Russell, doesn't approve and would rather find a new host. In parallel, little Maddie is completely dominated by the Dark Commander and goes on a rampage, killing several people and severely wounding Jordan. In the midst of the chaos, Amori has a change of heart and betrays Josephine, who ends up stabbing Murphy in an escape attempt. Seeing the whole situation go up in flames, Bellamy takes off to get help from the children of Gabriel. To top it all off, Russell loses his patience with all the death and orders his daughter to be found at any cost. Gabriel suspects Octavia spent more time in the anomaly than it seems, and decides to use a toxin to unlock her memories. Octavia then has a hallucination straight out of the bunker's arena, where she comes face to face with none other than Charles Pike. He acts as a ghost therapist, helping her confront her actions, and realize she's seeking redemption. In a symbolic act, Octavia kills her dark persona, Blodreina, saying goodbye to her blood-soaked queen face.
Bad choice. No blood brain in that way.
Meanwhile, Kane is having a major existential crisis with his new body, and things only get worse when he meets the wife of Gavin, the original host. The tension is palpable. Elsewhere, Josephine and Bellamy are captured by the children of Gabriel, showing that Bellamy's plan to ask for help didn't go as expected. The mental wall between Clark and Josephine begins to crumble, turning Clark's head into a bizarre reality show with two contestants who hate each other. Unable to cope with the morality of the situation, Kane makes a drastic decision. He asks Indra to eject him into space along with the Nightblood serum in a tragic farewell with Abby, sensing danger.
Stay on.
Josephine gives control of the body back to Clark, who escapes and even leaves the keys to the chains for Bellamy to handle. Now, Clark starts seeing Josephine as a hallucination in the real world and decides she needs to find Gabriel. Coincidentally, he and Octavia receive her message. With a little help from Riker, Echo and Gaia start a rebellion in Sanctum, and in the midst of the chaos, Simone, Russell's wife, is murdered. Russell freaks out and decides to act like a medieval king, threatening to burn everyone at the stake. It's Abby who convinces him to calm down, promising to create new Nightbloods using bone marrow so he can resurrect all the primes. Meanwhile, Maddie remains under the influence of the Dark Commander, and Raven plans to give his mind a hard reset once and for all. Clark's body is failing, forcing her and Josephine to call a truce and work together to survive. Mortal enemies becoming best friends out of sheer necessity. After reuniting with Gabriel and Octavia, Bellamy shows up for the rescue, saving everyone and sending a direct message to Russell. If he hurts their people, he'll never see Josephine again. Gabriel manages to remove Josephine's mind drive, but her consciousness is stubborn and lingers in Clark's mind, attempting one last desperate attack. With Bellamy shouting words of encouragement, Clark finally faces Josephine in a mental showdown and erases her forever.
Wake up, Clark, come on!
With the body snatcher deleted, the real Clark is back, finally reunited with Bellamy and Octavia. Riker decides to use Maddie's bone marrow to turn Echo into a Nightblood. The plan is bizarre. Make her the new home for Simone's mind. It's like formatting a phone to install a new operating system. But Echo isn't interested in becoming an empty vessel and tries to reason with Riker, who clearly isn't 100% on board with the idea. To mess with his head, she drops a bombshell. She's not the real Echo. Her name is Ash, and as a child, she was forced to kill the real Echo and steal her identity. A plot twist worthy of a thriller. Meanwhile, Gaia and Miller manage to escape and launch a rescue, arriving just in the nick of time before Echo's mind is wiped. After being saved, Echo doesn't hesitate and kills Riker. On the other side of town, Clark and her crew are captured by the children of Gabriel. While imprisoned, they devise a plan to finish off the primes once and for all. The idea? Simulate a red sun eclipse to force an evacuation of Sanctum and create the perfect chaos. With Murphy's arrival, Clark disguises herself as Josephine to infiltrate the city and shut down the radiation shield. She fools everyone, even Russell and Maddie. However, Maddie's rage at the thought of Clark's death allows the Dark Commander to take complete control. With the Dark Commander driving Maddie's mind, things get serious.
Tell me what I have to do. We're gonna kill you! We're gonna kill both of you!
To make matters worse, Raven can't hack the system without Becca's notebook, leaving her with her hands tied. Seeing no way out, Abby makes a drastic decision to protect Maddie. She becomes a Nightblood and hands the last doses of bone marrow over to Russell. After making peace with Raven in a highly emotional moment, the worst happens. Russell wipes Abby's mind and turns her into the new host for Simone, who returns from the dead. It's heartbreaking. With the plan to resurrect all the primes in full swing, Gabriel tries to play the hero, but can't bring himself to kill Russell and ends up captured. Meanwhile, Clark, still in Josephine mode, convinces Priya to help her cut Sanctum's power and leak the truth about the primes to the citizens. Russell's reaction is worthy of a top-tier villain. He releases a massive amount of red sun toxin, causing everyone to go insane and attack each other.
Must be purified.
In the midst of the pandemonium, Priya is killed by Delilah's mother. Seeing that all is lost, the primes decide to retreat to the Eligius IV, taking Raven, Maddie, and Gaia as hostages. Murphy and Emori, however, choose to stay behind to save their friends. Murphy and Emori, now pretending to be the primes Daniel and Kaylee, manage to rescue their friends from the toxin-crazed fanatics. Together, the group manages to contain Sanctum's population, saving many lives, although the chaos has already claimed several victims. Aboard the Eligius IV, Clark finally drops her Josephine disguise to prevent the primes from wiping the minds of Wonkru. Her solution is simple and direct. She ejects all the primes, except Russell, into space. Goodbye, villains. Obviously, Russell is furious and teams up with the Dark Commander to get his revenge, but Clark gives a motivational speech to Maddie, who manages to regain control of her own body and imprison Russell, the last surviving Prime. With Maddie's life still at risk, Raven deletes the flame, only to discover that the Dark Commander was smarter and uploaded himself to an unknown location. He's basically become a computer virus. In the end, as everyone wonders if they did the right thing, strange symbols linked to the anomaly appear on Octavia's back. When they use the symbols, the anomaly expands, and an adult woman named Hope emerges from within. Hope says that he has her mother, stabs Octavia, and collapses. Immediately after, Octavia simply vanishes into thin air, leaving everyone with a "what the hell just happened?" look on their faces. Bellamy is kidnapped by some invisible predator-like figures, and Hope conveniently gets amnesia. Gabriel, Hope, and Echo rush off in pursuit of the kidnappers. Along the way, Echo has a hallucination of Roan and in full Rambo mode takes out 3 of the guys. With the anomaly about to close, the trio doesn't think twice and jumps through to rescue Bellamy. Meanwhile, in Sanctum, the mood is heavier than a championship finale. The factions are all together, and a showdown is brewing. The children of Gabriel are in a off with his head mood and demand Russell's execution. Murphy is on a massive guilt trip over Abby's death, and Maddie is still getting spoilers from past commanders in her head. Russell, in a super emo and suicidal vibe, destroys Priya's mind drive and goads Clark into ending his suffering. Clark just knocks him out, but then comes the plot twist. Inside his mind, Russell comes face to face with Shade Hedda. The Dark Commander had uploaded himself to Russell's chip and, without ceremony, deletes the body's owner and takes control. Clark, clueless, burns the palace and announces that Russell will be executed the next day. Little does she know she's about to execute the wrong villain. Octavia lands on Skyring and discovers that time is relative there, like the hyperbolic time chamber from Dragon Ball. 3 months for her were an eternity on Sanctum. 10 years pass in the blink of an eye, and Octavia starts a family with Dioza and Hope in a Castaway spin-off with more fighting. For 6 years, she tries to return to Sanctum, but the anomaly is underwater. Giving up, she sends a message in a bottle to Bellamy, but the message is intercepted by the disciples on Bardo. They capture Octavia and Dioza, but Octavia manages to hide Hope in a true Home Alone moment. Cut to the present. Hope, Gabriel, and Echo arrive on Skyring, centuries after Hope left, and her memory comes flooding back. The problem is, the code to get to Bardo has become an ink smudge. They're stranded on the planet, which now serves as a prison for the disciples. Gabriel then has a eureka moment when he finds the body of an old friend. Skyring is planet Beta from the Elegius 3 mission. This can only mean that Bardo is another planet from the mission, and the disciples are descendants of the colonists. Hope reveals she only injected the tracker into Octavia. Gabriel even finds the code on a memory chip, but a prisoner named Orlando, in an "if I can't go, no one can move," smashes the computer, leaving them all stranded. With his execution set, Shade Hedda in Russell's body starts playing 4D chess. He manipulates the situation so that his death will turn him into a martyr, which would cause the fanatics to destroy Sanctum. Clark sees the trap and is forced to call everything off. Meanwhile, at the nuclear reactor, a guy named James, being the opposite of Employee of the Month, pushes the wrong button, causing a nuclear meltdown and dying in the process. Congratulations, James. To make matters worse, Gaia reveals the truth about the flame, and a bunch of Wong crew members lose faith and jump ship. Raven, desperate, turns to the Elegius prisoners. Hatch, a former bank robber, and 3 others volunteer, along with Murphy and Amori, who are protected by their nightblood as if it were a radiation-proof vest. The problem is, the radiation is fatal for the others. Raven has to make a horrible decision, lie to them, telling them everything is fine, just so they'll keep working and save everyone. In a nail-biting climax, and with Murphy's help, Hatch manages to finish the repairs at the last second, heroically sacrificing himself before dying from the radiation. We travel back in time and find out what happened to Hope. Months after Octavia and Dioza's kidnapping, a disciple prisoner named Dev shows up on Skyring and becomes friends with Hope. The two devise a plan: wait 10 years and set an ambush for the disciples to rescue their people, but the plan goes horribly wrong. Dev dies, and Hope is left alone to continue the mission. Back in the present, Gabriel, Echo, and Hope are stranded on Skyring. scouring, waiting for the disciples to return. They discover that these people believe in a last war and worship the Eligius III as if it were a deity that saved everyone. Orlando decides to train the trio, and 5 years later, they finally manage to ambush the disciples. But Echo, who has the trustworthiness of a doorknob, decides to abandon Orlando on Skyring. The man can't bear the loneliness and takes his own life. Meanwhile, in Sanctum, Raven is feeling guilty about the death she caused and decides to study a disciple's armor. That's when she has a eureka moment and discovers that the anomaly is actually a wormhole. Suddenly, the disciples appear, demanding Clark's surrender, claiming she is the key to winning the final war. Raven uses the armor to rescue her friends and takes Clark, Jordan, Nyla, and Miller through the anomaly. Gaia stays behind but is attacked by a surviving disciple who deactivates the stone and drags her through with him. Clark and the rest of the group arrive on Nakara and realize they're screwed. There's no anomaly stone for them to leave.
Only one problem. We need an anomaly stone for that.
Here we find out what happened to Octavia on Bardo. Her memories are scanned by Levitt, a disciple scientist who, surprisingly, isn't a jerk and even forms a connection with her. Hope eventually arrives and, with Levitt's help, rescues Octavia, sending her back to Sanctum. The problem is, the journey causes Octavia to lose her memory of everything she experienced there. Later, Hope is captured and forced to help bring Octavia back to Bardo. It's at this moment that Bellamy appears, overpowers the guards, and tries to save his sister, but a disciple triggers an explosion and poof, Bellamy vanishes, apparently dead. In the present, Echo, Hope, and Gabriel arrive on Bardo and discover that the disciples got there through the anomaly, not via the Eligius III as they thought. They manage to rescue Octavia, but receive the devastating news about Bellamy. Back in Sanctum, Russell's followers are causing a major riot. Murphy tries to play the hero by posing as Daniel Prime, but almost gets himself killed. Shade Hedda is the one who resolves the conflict, but Indra, who's nobody's fool, immediately figures out his true identity. Since she can't just kill him, she devises a plan. She has Jackson surgically remove the mind drive from Russell. That way, the Dark Commander is trapped forever, with no chance of being resurrected again. On Bardo, Diyoza proves she's tough as nails, escaping her captors and reuniting with Hope, Echo, Octavia, and Gabriel. With the stone room under heavy guard, Levitt tells the group to flee across the planet's dangerous surface. But Gabriel, perhaps tired of all the chaos, gets cold feet. He knocks everyone out and surrenders to the disciples. Meanwhile, on Nakara, Clark's team discovers the planet is basically a giant graveyard used by the disciples, and the anomaly stone, it's inside a massive creature. With no other choice, they enter the beast, face some nasty dangers inside, and finally reach the stone, allowing them to travel to Bardo. Before they leave, Miller and Nyla find a symbol connecting the disciples to the old doomsday cult, the Second Dawn. Things are getting weirder and weirder. In Sanctum, Wonkru's weapons are stolen, likely by the Eligius prisoners. To make matters worse, Shade Hedda begins manipulating Nelson to gain power. Indra tries to convince Maddie to take up the mantle of commander again, but the girl is terrified. Following Murphy and Amori's advice, Indra makes a decision. She herself will lead Wonkru to face the never-ending threats. It was about time. In Sanctum, Shade Hedda, the master manipulator, challenges Murphy to a game of chess, but it's not just a game. He's hinting that a disaster is about to happen, and will only reveal what it is if Murphy wins. In reality, it's just a distraction to get Murphy out of the way while Amori tries to do a good deed. She organizes a ceremony to reunite the children of Gabriel with their families. Nelson's father snaps and attacks his own son, forcing Nelson to defend himself and, well, you know, after this family tragedy, Nelson joins the Eligius prisoners and the other children of Gabriel to seize power. Nikki, who's not one to be messed with, takes control and announces, "Now we're going to make some demands." Meanwhile, on Bardo, Gabriel decides to become the official Anomaly Stone nerd and joins the research team. Hope and her mother share a rare moment of peace and connection. Echo, ever the sharpest one in the room, immediately figures out that the disciples want to recruit them for a war. Without a second thought, she leads the group and they accept the offer in true, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em fashion. Then time gets wonky. Clark's group arrives on Bardo, but 3 months after Echo's crew. To make matters worse, Gabriel drops a bombshell. Bellamy is apparently dead. Clark is completely devastated. With the key finally on Bardo, the disciples' leader, Anders, awakens awakens the Shepherd from cryo-sleep, and the big reveal is that the Shepherd is none other than Bill Kettaghan, the founder of the Second Dawn Doomsday Cult. The vintage villain is back. Let's hop in the DeLorean and go back in time, before the first apocalypse. We meet Kettaghan's family, his ex-wife Grace and his daughter Callie, a child prodigy who literally created the Grounder language. When the nuclear bombs fall, they rush to the Second Dawn bunker. Kettaghan, who had already found the anomaly stone in Machu Picchu, becomes obsessed with it, like Dahlem with the One Ring. All he wants is to open a portal to another world, completely ignoring the idea of reclaiming Earth. 2 years later, Becca arrives from Polaris and, using the flame, manages to open the portal to Bardo. She insists on using Nightblood to save the planet, but Kettaghan is adamant. The plan is to get the hell out. As she gets closer to Callie, Becca discovers a code on the stone that leads to what she calls Judgment Day, the true end of the human race. Since she refuses to cooperate, Kettaghan imprisons her and burns her at the stake to get the flame. Callie, inspired by Becca, steals the flame and flees with a group of people, taking enough Nightblood to save 2,000 more. Grace, her mother, is exiled for helping, and Callie's brother Reese becomes a Nightblood to go after her and retrieve the flame. After the family feud is settled, Kettaghan takes the rest of his followers and bails to Bardo. Back in the present, Kettaghan reveals to Clark that the flame is the key he's looking for. Clark, playing 4D chess, bluffs and says Callie's mind still survives within it. To cap it all off, Kettaghan brings in Octavia, Dioza, and Echo, who seem to have been completely brainwashed and are now loyal disciples. 3 months ago, at the Disciple Training Academy on Bardo, Echo, Octavia, Dioza, and Hope are learning the Disciple way. In the process, Octavia even strikes up a romance with Levitt, one of the guys there. Almost everyone buys into the cause and the so-called war to come, except for Hope, who continues to rebel. The solution? Echo, with the coldness of an iceberg, suggests her friend be sentenced to 5 years of imprisonment on Skyring. Yeah, the friendship is on thin ice.
Guards.
In the present, in Sanctum, the mood is tense. Nikki gives a 24-style ultimatum. Murphy, Shade Haida, and Raven have 20 minutes to surrender, or she starts executing hostages. Murphy and Indra form an unlikely alliance with Shade Haida, who reveals a secret passage. In the midst of the chaos, Nelson exposes Murphy and Amori as imposters. When Nikki prepares to execute Amori, Murphy has a heroic moment and confesses that he was the one who suggested using the prisoners in the reactor, trying to buy time. The Wonkru cavalry arrives, and Nikki and Nelson surrender. With the truth about Russell's death revealed, Indra locks Shade Haida in with the Sanctomites, hoping they'll do the dirty work for her. Bad idea. Shade Haida goes into massacre mode and kills them all. The Dark Commander declares that his fight has just begun. As 2 Wonkru guards kneel before him, the king is back on the throne.
I gone play your starter.
In Bardo, we discover that our group of infiltrators is secretly planning a rebellion from within. Meanwhile, the big boss Kettaghan is playing historian, studying records from Bardo's ancient inhabitants. These records speak of a last war and something called transcendence. But Jordan, who must be the only one who paid attention in language class, realizes the translation is all wrong. It's not a war, but a test, like a final exam to decide if the human race graduates or gets held back forever. To get to this test, the disciples need the flame, and they're certain it's in Clark's head, thanks to one of Octavia's memories. Echo, still furious about Bellamy's supposed death, decides the best revenge is to release a biological weapon and wipe out all the disciples. She's in full John Wick mode. The group tries to calm her down, but Hope snaps, kills the leader Anders, and tries to release the toxin herself. Seeing the impending tragedy, Dioza sacrifices herself to prevent the genocide and save her daughter and friends.
You die here.
Oh, no!
Back in Sanctum, Shade Haida is in King of the Castle mode, revealing himself to Wonkru and challenging Indra for command. He wins the fight but doesn't escape unscathed. Maddie manages to blind him in one eye. Hunted by the new tyrant, Murphy, always scrambling to survive, gathers the survivors to hide and prepare the resistance. Remember Bellamy, who everyone thought had turned to space dust? Well, plot twist, he's very much alive. Levitt discovers this while digging through a disciple's memories. It turns out Bellamy was thrown through the anomaly and landed on a planet called Etheria, along with a hostage. The place is like something out of a survival movie, and the two must climb a giant mountain to reach the anomaly and get back home. At first, they hate each other, but they end up forming an alliance to stay alive. During the journey, Bellamy discovers that the planet's ancient inhabitants became beings of light, and after having a vision of his mother and Kettaghan himself, he simply switches sides. The guy starts believing in the disciples' cause and the whole transcendence thing. They spend over 2 months together, facing blizzards and a vertigo-inducing climb. At a critical moment, Bellamy even saves the disciple from falling, showing his mindset has completely changed. To finally return, they have to take an Indiana Jones-style leap of faith, jumping off a cliff straight into the anomaly. Upon arriving in Bardo, Bellamy shocks everyone. He kneels before Kettaghan and betrays his friends, revealing that the flame was destroyed and wiping out any advantage they had. And as if things couldn't get any worse, he convinces Kettaghan to spare his friends in exchange for his help repairing the flame and initiating the so-called Last War. Obviously, the group refuses to help, and the tension becomes thicker than a horror movie plot. Kettaghan then orders everyone's minds to be scanned. Clark, ever the negotiator, tries to strike a deal to free her people, but Kettaghan is smarter. He sends everyone to a random planet, leaving only Raven and Gabriel as collateral to ensure Clark's cooperation. Meanwhile, in Sanctum, Shade Hedda is doing a major house cleaning. He massacres the children of Gabriel who refuse to kneel, with only one survivor being rescued by Indra. Murphy and Amori, in full protector mode, hide the other survivors in the workshop. Nikki even finds them ready for revenge, but Murphy, with his silver tongue, manages to calm her down. The problem is, Shade Hedda finds the hiding spot in the reactor and takes Murphy hostage. Without a second thought, Amori threatens to blow everything up, creating a classic action movie standoff. To top it off, Clark returns to Sanctum with Kettaghan and his crew, only to find the place in a state of total chaos. The disciples arrive in full force, taking out Shade Hedda's guards and leaving the Dark Commander gravely wounded. While the group searches for the flame, a red sun eclipse begins, which is a very bad sign. Emery, being clever, lowers Sanctum's shield and lets the toxic insects have a party. They attack everyone and kill Knight, who is trying to breach the reactor. The toxin also affects Gabriel, who starts hallucinating Josephine. Her ghost version insists he fix the flame and save humanity. Elsewhere, Nikki finally corners Raven for her revenge, but in a soap opera-worthy twist, decides the best punishment is to let her live with the guilt. Meanwhile, Indra and Shade Hedda, the most unlikely duo ever, team up to escape. But along the way, Indra learns the truth about her mother's betrayal and decides to just leave Shade Hedda to die alone. Gabriel, influenced by the hallucination, starts to repair the flame, but then has a moment of clarity and simply destroys the thing for good. Seeing the mess, Clark takes control, kills Doucette, and forces Kettaghan to open the portal. She, Raven, Jackson, Maddie, then Mori, Indra, and Murphy go through. But then comes the stab in the back. Shade Hedda snitches to Bellamy that Maddie's sketchbook contains the memories of the commanders. Bellamy refuses to let it go, and Clark, heartbroken, does the unthinkable. She kills her best friend and steps through the portal, leaving the sketchbook behind.
This is the only way. Sorry.
Me too.
Clark's group steps through the portal and lands right in the Second Dawn bunker, while Kettaghan uses the confusion to escape to Bardo. There, they reunite with the rest of their friends and with Gaia, who had been kidnapped. Then comes the heaviest moment. Clark has to tell everyone that Bellamy is dead. It's a gut punch, but Echo and Octavia surprisingly support her. The good news is that Earth has healed from the death wave, like a complete planetary reset. Clark, sick and tired of jumping between worlds, destroys the Disciples' helmet and declares they're staying right there.
What the hell are you doing?
This is our home. I will not lose anyone else.
Meanwhile, on Bardo, Shade Hedda is playing 4D chess. He makes a deal with Kettaghan. He'll deliver Maddie in exchange for total control of Sanctum. The Dark Commander wastes no time, infiltrates the bunker, gravely injures Gabriel, and only flees because Indra and Gaia show up. Gabriel, in a moment of peace, refuses treatment and dies.
Gabriel. No.
I'm ready.
Maddie, feeling guilty for everything, makes a drastic decision. She uses the Disciples' tech and goes to Bardo on her own. The Disciples send a bomb through the portal. The blast is contained, but the bunker starts to collapse on top of everyone. While Clark tries to process the mountain of tragedies that have occurred, Cadogan is already on Bardo, digging through Maddie's mind to find the code. Levitt, who is assisting, becomes increasingly uncomfortable with the whole situation. He reaches a breaking point and switches sides, helping Clark and Octavia get to Bardo using some tracking pills Shade Heda left behind. Their strategy to create a diversion? Unleash Shade Heda. The Dark Commander does what he does best, massacres a bunch of disciples and simply vanishes from the map. Back on Earth, the bunker is falling apart and Emori is critically injured in a cave-in. A race against time begins as Raven, Murphy, and Jackson search for the Anomaly Stone to take her to Sanctum. They find the stone, but Emori's heart stops. Jackson begins CPR as they run desperately through the portal. On Bardo, the news is devastating. Cadogan's procedure caused a massive stroke in Maddie, leaving her in a catatonic state. Octavia is ready to end her suffering, but Levitt discovers that Cadogan got the code. The mission changes. They have to stop the villain and leave Maddie behind. In the final scene, a tear rolls down Maddie's eye, showing she's still conscious, trapped inside her own body. With Emori's death, Murphy refuses to lose the woman he loves. He does something completely insane. He takes her mind drive and connects it to his own head, essentially installing her consciousness into his brain, even though it could cause a major short circuit. Meanwhile, Clark is in the middle of what appears to be humanity's final test. With no patience for talk, she simply kills Cadogan right in the middle of the exam. The result? Failed. Down below, Raven, Nikki, and the Eligius crew are on a rescue mission, getting people out of the bunker. The prisoners and Wonkru unite to hold off the disciples, buying precious time for Clark to sort things out up there. Seeing that Clark blew it, Raven decides to step up and take the test herself. But the judge, a cosmic entity who decides to show up looking like Abby Griffin, has already made its verdict. Humanity is too violent and deserves extinction. And to prove the judge's point, Shade Heda, the villain who seems to have 9 lives, starts a massive brawl. In the chaos, Levitt and Echo are mortally wounded trying to break it up. Indra, however, finally manages to put an end to the Dark Commander, and Octavia, using her superpower of persuasion, manages to calm both sides and stop the fight. With this act of peace, humanity passes the test by the skin of its teeth. Everyone, except Clark, transcends, becoming pure energy. Clark returns to Earth with only Picasso, Russell's dog. There, the judge appears again, now in the form of Lexa, to explain the obvious. Since she killed Cadogan during the test, she's banned from the Transcendence Club. But, in a final twist, her friends, minus Maddie but including Levitt, have chosen to abandon the life of light to live out their final days as humans. Together with her, they all reunite peacefully on Earth, ready for a communal series finale.